Good morning, dear friend. The world is still quiet, wrapped in that fragile light before the sun fully rises. The air carries a hush that only dawn knows, a kind of sacred stillness when heaven feels closer to earth. This is the hour when the heart can finally breathe before the rush of voices, screens, and responsibilities begins again. Maybe you are standing by a window right now, coffee in hand, looking out at the first soft glow that touches the trees. Or maybe you are sitting in the dark, unable to sleep, your mind racing through questions that never seem to rest. Wherever you are, this moment has found you for a reason. There was once a man who used to wake up every morning long before sunrise, not because he was holy, but because pain refused to let him sleep. His wife had passed away unexpectedly, and the silence of their empty home pressed on him like a weight. He would sit by the window, watching night turn into morning, whispering into the emptiness, hoping someone or something was listening. For months, he spoke to the shadows, but one morning, as light spilled across the floor, he felt something shift. It was not an answer or a vision, but a quiet realization. He was not alone in that silence. It was the beginning of healing, the moment when pain met presence, and grief began to breathe again. Maybe you, too, are carrying something heavy. The world can look calm from the outside, yet inside, storms still rage: fear of the future, regret from the past, or the invisible ache of waiting for a breakthrough that never seems to come. There are mornings when courage feels too expensive and hope feels too far away, yet it is precisely in this hour, before the sun claims the sky, that something sacred unfolds. It is the hour when the soul has a chance to meet the one who still moves mountains, not by force, but by whisper. This morning, you are invited into more than words. You are being invited into a conversation that mends the unseen parts of you. Prayer is not a performance. It is a meeting place. It is where wounds are noticed, where tears are not wasted, and where silence itself becomes language. The power of prayer is not only in what it changes around us, but in how it changes what is happening within us. When the heart opens, truly opens, it becomes the doorway where light can finally enter. Faith, in its purest form, is not loud. It does not demand signs or shout for proof. It simply says, "I will show up." And that is what this moment is about: showing up. You do not have to have perfect words, or perfect faith, or even perfect peace. You only need willingness. Somewhere between your breathing and the slow rising of the sun, the Eternal listens. So, as this new day begins, take a deep breath. Let the noise of yesterday fade behind you. Let the worries of tomorrow rest for now. This is your sacred hour, the stillness before motion, the silence before song. Let this morning be the threshold where your spirit steps from chaos into calm, from fear into trust, from exhaustion into renewal. You are about to walk into a holy dialogue, one that does not demand but invites, one that does not condemn but restores. Open your heart. Dear friend, let this morning's light find its way inside you. Every sunrise is a promise, and every breath is an answered prayer waiting to be spoken. The day is new, and so are you. Now, let us begin. Dear Heavenly Father, The morning has barely begun, and the world still sleeps. The air feels thick with quiet, the kind that makes me aware of every breath. Every thought, every ache inside my chest. The sky outside my window is still painted in gray, and the first light of dawn is shy, hesitant, as if it too is unsure whether to rise. I come to you in this hour not because I am strong, but because I am tired of pretending to be. My heart feels heavy with questions that do not have answers. And yet, somewhere within me, I believe you can hear even what I cannot speak. You know the nights that seem endless, when sleep slips away and my mind becomes a restless storm. You know the weight I carry, the silent fears I do not admit to anyone, the mistakes that replay like old songs, the emptiness that no amount of distraction can fill. I come to you now, not to perform, but to be seen. Sometimes I feel like a small light trying to survive in a sea of shadows. I am not asking you to erase the darkness. I am asking you to help me breathe within it. I have read about your peace, but I confess that some mornings it feels far away, like something meant for others who are holier, calmer, wiser. Still, I whisper your name into this fragile dawn, trusting that even my whisper matters to you. Father, you see how I wake with worry before I even open my eyes. The world presses in before the sun does, and fear tries to write the story of my day. But I do not want to live by fear anymore. I want to live by faith, even when faith feels like standing on the edge of a cliff without knowing if the ground will hold. I remember the words that say, "Even the darkness is not dark to you," and I hold them close now. If you are here in this gray light, then I can face the day. I can take one more breath, one more step, one more prayer. I bring you the exhaustion I have carried for too long, the disappointments that pile up like stones on my shoulders, the memories I wish I could rewrite. I bring them because I do not know what else to do with them. You do not ask me to be perfect before I come. You simply ask me to come, so here I am. Messy, uncertain, but willing. Take this heart, trembling though it is, and hold it steady for the day ahead. Let your strength find its way through the cracks in my weakness. Let your mercy seep into the corners of my fear. I confess, sometimes I do not understand why life feels like this, why losses come so easily and healing feels so slow. I do not understand why hope feels like something I have to fight for every morning. But I am learning that understanding is not the same as trusting. I do not need to understand everything if I can simply rest in you. So, in this moment, before the noise begins, I choose to rest, not because everything is fixed, but because you are near. Father, I think of those who wake up feeling the same weight. Those whose hearts ache quietly behind polite smiles. You know them too. Maybe this prayer can stretch beyond me, reaching those I will never meet, wrapping around them like warmth in the cold. Let them feel what I long to feel, that they are not forgotten, not unseen, not unloved. If you can meet me here in this early morning silence, then I believe you can meet them too. Sometimes, I look back at the road I have walked and see only fragments, mistakes, broken promises, seasons I barely survived. But you see a whole story, one still unfolding, one you have never stopped writing. You see the purpose in what I call pain, the beauty in what I call failure. You see what I cannot, and that gives me just enough courage to stay. So even in the dim light of this dawn, I will lift my face toward you. Help me not to rush through this morning as if it were a problem to solve. Teach me how to simply be here with you, in this breath, in this stillness. Let the quiet become a sanctuary where I can finally hear the truth you have been whispering all along, that I am not defined by what I have lost, but by the love that refuses to let me go. Today, I do not ask for miracles I can see. I ask for the grace to notice the small ones that are already here, the rhythm of my heartbeat, the rise and fall of my chest, the soft promise of light pushing through the dark. These are reminders that you are not far away. They are proof that hope is not gone, only waiting for me to look up. Father, as this morning stretches its arms toward the day, I want to start differently. I do not want to wake into fear or rush into business. I want to wake into your presence. I want my first thought to be gratitude, not anxiety. My first words to be honesty, not defense. My first act to be stillness, not striving. Show me how to build this day upon your peace, not my panic. Let every task, every meeting, every interaction today grow from the soil of this moment with you. You know the road ahead of me. You know the people I will meet, the surprises I will face, the choices I will make. Prepare me now, not with certainty, but with calm. Remind me that you walk beside me through each unknown path, that you will not abandon me halfway when fear whispers. Let your voice rise louder when fatigue returns. Remind me that I can find rest even in motion if my heart stays rooted in you. Father, I give you this beginning, the fragile edges of a new day. I bring the broken pieces of yesterday and lay them down. I offer the quiet between my breaths as space for you to fill. Help me to live today not out of habit, but out of awareness that each moment is sacred. When the world wakes, let me not forget this stillness, this whisper, this sense of being held. In this early hour, I realize that faith is not a feeling, but a choice to believe that light is still coming, that love is still enough, that even in darkness, you are already here. And though I may not see the full sunrise yet, I trust that it will come, because it always does, because you always do. Father, as the morning deepens and the world begins to stir, I sit here still wrapped in the quiet you have given me. The soft light has grown a little stronger, yet my heart remains tender from the prayer before. It feels as if you have opened a door inside me, and now you wait for me to walk through it. I sense you are inviting me to be honest, not with grand words or lofty promises, but with the truth of what I carry. Yesterday, I might have hidden these things behind small smiles and practiced calm. But now, in this early stillness, I can no longer pretend. You already know the weight that presses against my chest. Still, you wait for me to name it. So here I am, Lord, opening my hands before you. In one hand, I hold the fear that never quite leaves me, the fear of not being enough, of failing the people I love, of missing my purpose. It whispers when the room grows silent, reminding me of every unfinished plan and every road I was too afraid to take. I give this fear to you, even if it clings to my fingers. I do not know how to let it go completely, but I trust that you can teach me how. In my other hand, I hold sorrow, the kind that has no clear beginning and no clear end. It comes in waves, sometimes gentle, sometimes fierce, and it leaves me gasping for peace. I bring that to you too, because I have learned that even tears can be prayers when they fall into your hands. There are burdens I did not even realize I carried until this moment, the quiet disappointments that stack themselves like invisible stones. The words I never said, the forgiveness I never gave, the dreams that felt too small to matter, all of them have found a home inside me, crowding out the space meant for joy. But you, Lord, are not startled by my cluttered heart. You look at the pile and call it redeemable. You see beyond the mess to the story still unfolding. Teach me how to place each burden before you, one at a time, like laying stones at the foot of an altar. Maybe this is what surrender really means, not a grand gesture, but a slow unburdening. For every stone I place down, I ask you to fill the empty space with something better. Where fear once lived, plant courage. Where bitterness hid, let kindness take root. Where guilt took hold, pour out mercy until shame has nowhere left to stay. God, I confess how easily I carry what you never asked me to. I take on other people's pain, their disappointment, their anger, as if I could fix what only you can heal. I shoulder responsibilities that were never mine to bear, thinking I am being strong when I am only being afraid. But I hear you in this silence, reminding me that strength was never about carrying everything. It was about trusting the one who can. So I release what was never mine. I release the urge to control. I release the need to understand. I release the weight of pretending to have it all together. As I name these burdens, something shifts inside me. It is not relief yet, but it is space, the kind of space where breathing feels easier, where thoughts untangle themselves, where grace begins to move quietly through the cracks. I do not know if all this pain will disappear today, but I do know that it has been seen, and that matters. You see me, and that seeing alone is a kind of healing. Lord, I bring you the burden of comparison, the voice that tells me I am too late, too slow, too ordinary to matter. It steals the joy from my blessings and turns gratitude into envy. But you remind me that my story is not behind. It is unfolding exactly as you designed it. Help me to remember that I do not need to chase what others have. I need only to be faithful where you have placed me. I hand you this restless striving. Replace it with peace that does not depend on applause. There is also the burden of regret, heavy and familiar. I replay old moments, wishing I could rewrite them, but the pages of yesterday are sealed. You tell me I do not need to erase them to find freedom. I only need to bring them into your light. You turn even the worst chapters into soil where wisdom can grow. Let me trust that nothing is wasted in your hands. not even the mistakes I cannot forgive myself for. Sometimes, Lord, I carry burdens that belong to tomorrow, worries about what might happen, what could go wrong, what I might lose. They hover like dark clouds over every good thing. But you are the same yesterday, today, and forever. And you remind me that I was never meant to live a day ahead of time. Teach me to walk in rhythm with your grace, which is always enough for the day I am in. I place tomorrow's weight into your keeping. As the light outside grows warmer, I realize how often I have filled my prayers with requests, but not with honesty. You do not need polished words. You desire truth spoken from trembling lips. And so, here is my truth. I am tired of holding everything alone. I am tired of smiling while my heart hides behind walls. I want to live unguarded before you. I want to trust that when I name my burdens, you are not disappointed in my weakness. You are delighted by my willingness to let you in. Father, this act of naming is not just confession. It is communion. It is me saying, here I am, as I truly am. It is the sound of chains loosening. It is the beginning of light entering the hidden rooms of my soul. I feel the weight shifting, not because it has disappeared, but because you are now carrying it with me. And maybe that is the miracle of this morning, not that life suddenly feels easier, but that I am no longer alone in it. I imagine you standing beside me as I set each burden down. There is no judgment in your eyes, only gentleness, as if you have been waiting for this moment all along. The air feels different now, lighter somehow. The morning sounds clearer. My heart beats slower. There is room again to hope. So, Lord, I will continue to name what hurts, what confuses, what overwhelms me, until my hands are empty enough to receive what you have been trying to give. Let this unburdening be the rhythm of my mornings, the quiet exchange of fear for faith, of control for trust, of heaviness for peace. You know what each burden costs, and still you ask me to let them go, and I will, one by one, because I am learning that surrender is not loss, is the first taste of freedom. Lord, after naming the weight I carried, the silence that follows feels different. It is not the same heavy stillness that used to echo with fear. It is lighter now, tender, almost expectant. I can sense you here, though you do not speak in thunder or wind. Your presence feels like a whisper brushing against the edges of my heart. I realize that I have spent so much of my life speaking, pleading, explaining, filling the air with noise, that I have forgotten how to listen. This morning, I want to change that. I want to hear you, not just the sound of my own prayers returning to me. Father, teach me how to listen without demanding answers. Help me to lean into the quiet, not as an absence, but as an invitation. I used to think silence meant you were far away, but now I am beginning to see that sometimes silence is where you are closest. Maybe you have been speaking all along in the rhythm of the rain, in the breath between my thoughts, in the kindness of strangers, in the moments that felt too ordinary to matter. I was simply too distracted to notice. So here I am, Lord, still and listening. The world around me is slowly waking up, A bird calls from the tree outside. The wind stirs through the leaves. A car hums faintly in the distance. None of these sounds are loud, yet together they form a kind of sacred music. It is as if creation itself is whispering your name. I realize that listening to you is not always about hearing words. Sometimes it is about recognizing peace when it enters the room. Sometimes it is about feeling conviction soften into comfort. Sometimes it is about knowing deep within me that I am safe, even when nothing around me has changed. God. I remember how often I have rushed through my mornings, treating prayer as another task on a long list. But today, I see it differently. This stillness is not a pause before life begins. It is part of life itself. Listening is not wasting time, it is how time becomes holy. When I quiet my mind long enough, I notice that you are not shouting over the noise of the world. You are waiting beneath it, patient and constant. There are moments, Lord, when your voice feels like memory soft, familiar, not something heard but something remembered. It reminds me of all the times you have carried me without my noticing. When I thought I was walking alone, you were steadying my steps. When I thought the door had closed forever, you were preparing another way. Listening now, I begin to recognize that your guidance rarely comes all at once. It comes in fragments, a word here, a feeling there, a sense of peace that lingers when logic says it should not. Maybe faith is learning to collect those fragments and trust that together they form a path. Father, I confess that listening can be hard because it requires patience. My heart wants quick answers, clear signs, certainty that I am doing the right thing. But you are not a formula to decode. You are a relationship to nurture. You do not rush me. You draw me closer, slowly, like the light spreading across the morning sky. Help me to be patient with the pace of your voice. Help me to trust that silence does not mean you have forgotten me. It means you are working in ways I cannot yet see. In this quiet, Lord, I begin to remember moments when your voice found me unexpectedly, a friend's encouragement at the exact moment I needed it. A door that closed before I could make a mistake. A peace that came for no reason other than your grace. These memories are proof that you have been speaking all along, and that I have already heard you more times than I realized. Listening, then, is not something new to learn, but something old to remember. The world teaches me to fill every space with sound, but you teach me to find strength in stillness. You speak in the pauses between thoughts, in the deep inhale before courage, in the exhale after surrender. I do not need to perform to hear you. I only need to be. And being here now with my mind quiet and my heart open feels like a beginning I did not know I needed. God, as I listen, I notice that my fears lose some of their power. They begin to dissolve, not because they are gone, but because your presence gives them no room to grow. I realize that peace is not the absence of trouble. It is the presence of trust. When I listen to you, I start to remember who I am beyond the noise, beloved, known, forgiven, and in remembering that, I can finally rest. Sometimes, Lord, I wish you would speak more clearly, write the plan across the sky, whisper the answers I long for. but perhaps clarity would rob me of dependence. And you value connection more than certainty. Maybe you want me to stay close, to keep returning to this quiet morning again and again, until listening becomes the rhythm of my life. If faith comes by hearing, then let me keep my heart tuned to the frequency of your grace. Father, help me carry this listening in the noise of the day. When voices compete for my attention, let me recognize yours by its gentleness. When anger or fear rises around me, let me pause long enough to find the calm that signals you are near. Let your voice be my compass, steadying me when the world pulls in every direction. Remind me that I do not need to react to everything that happens. I only need to respond to you. As I stay still in this moment, I begin to see how listening changes everything. It makes the world softer. It makes people easier to love. It turns ordinary moments into sacred encounters. Slows me down long enough to see the small miracles. I often overlook the light flickering through leaves, the scent of coffee in the air, the way the morning breeze feels like a quiet blessing. You are in all of it, Lord, and I do not want to miss you again. Now I understand that listening is not passive. It is an act of surrender. It is me saying, "Speak, and I will follow." It is choosing to trust your timing, even when the waiting stretches longer than I hoped. It is believing that you are guiding me not through noise, but through peace. And maybe that is why the morning feels sacred, because it is the hour when the world is still enough for your whisper to be heard. Lord, as the day unfolds, let this spirit of listening remain within me. Let my heart stay quiet enough to recognize your guidance in unexpected places, in laughter, in silence, in the kindness of others, in the strength to forgive. Let your voice remind me that I do not walk alone, that I am being led even when I cannot see where. And if I ever lose my way again, bring me back to this place, the stillness, the sunrise, the sacred quiet where I first remembered how to hear you. Father, as the hush of listening begins to settle deeper into my soul, something stirs an old, almost forgotten warmth. It feels like memory calling out from somewhere sacred within me. The silence that once frightened me now becomes a mirror, and in it, I start to see traces of your faithfulness, moments I passed through without realizing you were holding me the entire time. It is strange how easy it is to forget the miracles once they become part of the ordinary. But this morning, Lord, I want to remember. I remember when the path ahead seemed impossible, and somehow a way appeared where there was none. I remember the prayers I whispered through tears, the ones I thought went unanswered, only to realize later that you had been preparing something far better than I dared to ask for. I remember nights when loneliness felt endless, and yet somehow light found its way through the cracks. Maybe miracles do not always arrive with thunder or spectacle. Maybe they come quietly, like dawn spilling over a sleeping world, unnoticed until everything is touched by light. God, you have always been there in the ordinary and the extraordinary, in what I called coincidence, but you called care. You have written miracles into my story so gently that I almost missed them. But now I see them everywhere, in the breath that fills my lungs, in the forgiveness that found me when I least deserved it, in the strength that carried me through days I thought I would not survive. Every heartbeat is proof that grace is still at work. There was a time, Lord, when I thought miracles were reserved for saints and prophets, for people whose faith never wavered. I used to think you saved your wonders for those who had earned them, but you have shown me that miracles are not rewards, they are reminders. They remind me that I am never too far, too broken, or too late for your love to reach. You move through every season, even the painful ones, turning endings into beginnings, ashes into gardens, despair into quiet hope. Father, help me to carry this remembrance like a flame in the dark. When doubt tries to rise, let these memories speak louder. Let them tell me that you have never failed me, even when I failed myself. Let them teach me that gratitude is not something to feel only when life is easy. It is a declaration of trust, a way of saying, you are still good, even when I cannot see the full picture. I remember a day when everything I planned fell apart, and yet somehow, the pieces formed something better than my design. I remember the people you sent, the ones who spoke kindness without knowing they were echoing your voice. I remember how pain softened into purpose, how weakness became the doorway through which your strength entered. Each of these moments is a stone on the altar of my faith, and this morning, I lay them down again before you, not as proof of my worthiness, but as proof of your mercy, God. There are times I forget how far you have carried me. I get lost in worry for tomorrow and overlook the evidence of your goodness behind me. But when I stop to remember, I see it all, how every detour had direction, how every delay held meaning, how every wound became an opening for compassion. You were there when I did not notice, guiding me through the fog, teaching me to walk by faith and not by sight. Sometimes I think about the small miracles, the ones that seem too simple to mention, the quiet mornings like this, the laughter that arrives uninvited, the moments of peace that settle in the middle of chaos. These are the threads that weave hope through every ordinary day. They remind me that not all miracles are loud. Some are as soft as the steady rhythm of breathing, as subtle as the comfort that returns after prayer. You do not always change my circumstances, but you change me within them, and that is a miracle of its own. Lord, help me to live today with eyes that remember. When frustration clouds my heart, remind me of the peace that once surprised me. When fear tells me I am alone, remind me of the countless times you have proven otherwise. Let remembrance become my anchor, holding me steady when storms rise. Let gratitude be my response, even for the things I do not yet understand. I think of the story you have been writing through my life, how some chapters were dark and others filled with light, but none without purpose. I realize now that miracles are not interruptions to the story. They are the ink with which you write it. Every breath, every turn, every redemption is a line in the poem of your grace. And though I cannot see the full stanza yet, I trust that it ends with beauty, because you are the author. Father, as I remember, something inside me softens, the tightness in my chest loosens, the noise in my mind fades. Gratitude begins to bloom quietly, like morning light spreading across the horizon. It is not forced. It simply happens. the natural result of seeing clearly. When I look back, I see that you were never absent, not in the waiting, not in the weeping, not in the wandering. You were always weaving good, even when I saw only broken threads. Sometimes I forget that remembering is an act of worship. It is a way of saying, I see what you have done, and I will not take it for granted. So let this remembrance become part of my morning ritual. Father, before I step into the noise of the world, let me pause long enough to thank you for the unseen mercies that carried me here. Let my gratitude not depend on what I receive next, but on what I already have, the gift of breath, the promise of your presence, the steady grace that has never run out. God, if ever I begin to doubt again, bring to mind these moments, times when you turn fear into courage, pain into wisdom, emptiness into meaning. Let me see them not as distant memories, but as living testimonies of your love. Let them remind me that if you were faithful then, you will be faithful now. As I breathe in the quiet of this morning, I realize that remembering is not about the past. It is about learning to see the present through the lens of grace. Every sunrise is proof that you still believe in new beginnings. Every heartbeat is proof that you still have work to do within me. And every moment of stillness like this is proof that miracles are not over. They are still unfolding. Right here, right now, in the space where I pause and remember. Lord, as I linger in this stillness after remembering all that you have done, my heart begins to face what lies ahead, the part I cannot see. Gratitude steadies me for a moment, but beneath it, there is a quiet trembling. The future has always felt like a vast ocean, beautiful, but full of uncertainty. I have learned to look back and see your miracles. But now, I want to learn how to look forward with the same faith. You have proven yourself faithful in every chapter behind me. Help me to trust you with the pages yet unwritten. Father, I confess that trust does not come easily. It is simple to say that I believe when everything is calm. But when the waves rise, my faith begins to waver. I try to plan, to prepare, to predict what might come, as if control could protect me. But the truth is, I cannot control much of anything. Life shifts like sand beneath my feet, and all I can hold on to is you. Teach me that surrender is not weakness, but wisdom. Remind me that trust is not blinded, is built on every moment you have proven yourself before. Sometimes, God, I fear the unknown because it feels empty, like walking into a dark room with no map and no light. But perhaps the unknown is not a void, it is a canvas where you are still painting. Maybe what I call uncertainty, you call creation. Maybe the places that feel empty are only waiting for grace to take shape. If I can learn to see it that way, maybe the darkness will not feel so heavy. I want to believe that even when I cannot see what is ahead, you are already there, preparing it for me. I think about the people I have met who seemed unshaken by life's storms, and I used to wonder what secret they held. Now I begin to understand it was not that their lives were easier, but that their trust was deeper. They had learned to stand still in the middle of uncertainty, not because they were fearless, but because they knew who stood with them. That is the kind of trust I long for, Lord, not one that depends on results, but one that rests in relationship. When I look at the path before me, I realize how small my perspective is. I see only a few steps ahead, and it unnerves me. Yet, every time I try to see further, the way grows blurred, as if you are gently telling me, "Walk first, and light will come." It is not easy for me to move without knowing, but I am learning that faith is a kind of motion. It asks me to take one step at a time, not toward certainty, but toward you. Father, I remember how many times I thought I was lost, only to find that I was being led. Every detour, every delay, every disappointment was not a mistake, it was direction. You never wasted a single moment, even the ones that hurt. So why should I fear what is coming when I know you are the same yesterday, today, and forever? Let this truth settle into the deepest parts of me until trust becomes my instinct, not my effort. There are mornings when worry greets me before the sun does, questions about tomorrow, about people I love, about dreams that feel too far away. But then I remember how you have met every need before, often in ways I could not have imagined. You have turned scarcity into sufficiency, loneliness into purpose, confusion into clarity. You have shown me that fear looks different when seen through the eyes of trust. It becomes not a wall, but a doorway. So here I am again, standing at the threshold of another unknown day, choosing to step through it with faith. Lord, sometimes I wonder why you do not show me the whole picture, but maybe if I saw everything at once, I would not need you as much. Maybe the mystery is mercy, the way you keep me close by revealing just enough light for the next step. Trust grows not in knowing the outcome, but in walking beside the one who holds it. So teach me to walk slowly, to resist the urge to rush ahead, to let each moment unfold like a gift instead of a test. God, when fear whispers that I am not ready, remind me that you never call the ready, you prepare the willing. I do not need to have it all figured out. I just need to keep saying yes, yes to your timing, even when it stretches my patience, yes to your plans, even when they rewrite mine, yes to the peace that comes from not having to control everything. Let this yes be my offering today, the quiet act of trust that turns uncertainty into sacred ground. There are times, Lord, when trusting you feels like standing on the edge of something vast. I cannot see the other side, but I can feel the pull of your promise. You have never led me anywhere without purpose, so I will stand here and breathe in this moment between fear and faith. Maybe this space, this trembling, uncertain in between, is where faith grows roots. I want to trust you not because I understand, because I know you are good. Father, as I think of the unknown ahead, I do not ask for details or guarantees. I ask for strength to stay steady when answers are delayed. I ask for courage to keep moving even when the path disappears in fog. I ask for the kind of peace that holds me quiet when everything inside wants to panic. And I ask for eyes that see beyond the surface, to notice the way you are already at work, turning uncertainty into opportunity, waiting into wisdom, loss into renewal. Each sunrise is proof that you specialize in new beginnings. Each morning you invite me to trust again, not as a test, but as an act of love. I do not need to carry yesterday's fear into today's dawn. The same hands that held me through the night are the ones lighting my way now. So I release the need to predict, to plan every detail, to demand clarity. Instead, I choose to rest in the quiet truth that you are already in my tomorrow. God, let this trust become more than words. Let it be how I live when uncertainty tries to steal my peace. Let me remember that faith is not about seeing the path, it is about knowing the guide. Let me walk through this day with open hands, willing heart, and steady breath. Let trust be the song that rises from within me, even when the melody trembles. Because if you are with me, the unknown is no longer something to fear, it is simply another place for your grace to unfold. Father, as trust begins to take deeper root within me, I start to realize that faith is not only about believing you will act, it is about letting go of my need to control how you do it. In this quiet morning light, I feel you asking me to surrender not as a loss, but as a return. There is something sacred in the act of unclenching my hands, of releasing the grip I have held on outcomes, plans, and people. It is not easy, Lord. The world teaches me that strength is holding on, but you are teaching me that true strength is learning to let go. Lord, I have spent so much of my life trying to carry everything myself, every worry, every fear, every need for approval, every unanswered question. I have worn exhaustion like a badge of responsibility, as if it proved my worth. But now, sitting in this morning stillness, I realize how heavy that burden has been. You never asked me to carry the world on my shoulders. You only asked me to carry faith. And that is lighter, purer, freer. So I lay these weights down now, every anxious thought, every unsolved problem, every unfinished story, and I place them at your feet. God, I know surrender does not mean giving up. It means giving over. It means trusting that your wisdom is greater than my understanding, that your timing is kinder than my impatience, that your plans stretch farther than my imagination. When I surrender, I do not lose myself. I find who I was meant to be before fear made me small. Surrender is not defeat. It is alignment. It is the moment my will meets yours and finally says, "Let your way be better than mine." I used to think surrender was a single act, something I could do once and be done. But now I see it as a rhythm, a daily choosing, a quiet yielding that happens moment by moment. Every morning is another chance to practice it. Every disappointment is another invitation to trust. Every delay is another lesson in patience. You are teaching me that surrender is not something forced. It is something formed, like a river shaping its path over time. Father, I surrender not because I have to, but because I want to. I want the peace that comes from releasing control, from knowing that I am not the one who has to hold everything together. I want to rest in the truth that you already know what I need before I can even form the words to ask. So today, I hand you my unfinished plans, my uncertain future, my hidden fears, and my restless heart. Take them, Lord, and shape them into something beautiful, something beyond what I could make alone. There are moments, Lord, when surrender feels impossible, when pain clings too tightly, when I want to understand why things happened the way they did. But even then, you whisper gently, reminding me that faith is not built on explanations, it is built on trust. I do not have to understand to be at peace. I only have to believe that you are working even in the things I cannot make sense of yet. Sometimes, God, I confuse surrender with silence, as if letting go means doing nothing. But surrender is not stillness without purpose. It is movement with meaning. It is choosing not to fight against what is, but to flow with what you are creating. It is saying yes to the unknown, because I trust the heart that leads me there. It is releasing not because I am defeated, but because I am defended by grace. I think about the way the trees let go of their leaves every autumn. They do not resist the change. They simply yield, trusting that what falls will make way for new life. That is what I want my heart to do. Father, to release what is finished, so that something new can grow. Teach me to let go gracefully, without bitterness or fear. Help me to see that what you take away is never punishment. It is preparation. There is a quiet beauty in surrender that I am only beginning to understand. It strips away what is false and leaves what is real. It clears space for peace to enter. It makes room for miracles. When I surrender, I stop trying to be the author of my own story and let you write it instead. And though I do not always understand every word, I know the ending will be good because you are good. Father, remind me that surrender is not passive. It is the most active trust there is. It is choosing to believe even when evidence says otherwise. It is deciding to love even when the world disappoints. It is waking up each morning and saying, "Here I am. Use me as you will." It is not resignation, it is resurrection. It is the courage to die to fear so that faith may live. When I hold on to control, I feel small and anxious. But when I release it, something opens inside me. Peace flows where panic used to live. Gratitude grows where grief once lingered. It is as if my soul exhales after holding its breath for too long. That is what surrender feels like, a deep, healing breath that says, "I trust you, God. Let this surrender reach every corner of my life. Let it touch the way I speak, the way I love, the way I forgive. Let me surrender my need to be right, my desire to be seen, my fear of being misunderstood. Let me rest in the quiet confidence that I am enough simply because you say I am. And when I forget, when my old instincts to control creep back in, remind me that peace begins where striving ends." Sometimes, Lord, surrender feels like standing on a cliff's edge with my eyes closed, unsure of where the ground will appear, but you have never let me fall before. And every time I have dared to trust, I have found that the ground beneath me was grace itself. So I choose again, here and now, to let go of what I cannot hold and to hold on to you instead. Father, take what I release and make something beautiful from it. Use my surrender as a seed, planting it deep in the soil of your will, where faith can grow strong and free. Let every letting go become an act of worship, quiet declaration that I believe in your goodness more than my own control. Let this morning's surrender not be an end, but a beginning, a turning toward you with open hands and an open heart, ready to receive whatever you choose to give next. Lord, after surrender has softened the restless corners of my heart, What remains is stillness, a quiet so deep that it feels almost unfamiliar. It is not the silence of emptiness, but the hush that follows trust, the calm after letting go. In this moment, I can sense you near, steady and unmoving, like the roots of a great tree. The air feels different, not heavy but full, as though peace itself has substance. It fills the room slowly, gently, wrapping itself around the places that used to ache. I realize now that stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of you. Father, this stillness teaches me something I could not learn in motion. It shows me that strength is not always found in doing, or fighting, or fixing. It is sometimes found in waiting, in breathing, in being still long enough to hear your heartbeat echo in mine. The world tells me that worth is measured by speed, by progress, by noise, but you whisper otherwise. You remind me that the deepest growth happens underground, unseen, where roots push through darkness toward living water. That is the kind of strength I want. Lord, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that endures quietly. I used to fear stillness because it forced me to face myself. It made the noise of my mind too loud to ignore. But now, in this sacred quiet, I begin to understand that stillness is not my enemy. It is my invitation. You meet me here not to condemn, but to comfort. Not to demand, but to dwell. You do not rush me. You steady me. And the longer I sit in this peace, the more I realize that stillness is not a pause in the journey. It is the journey. It is the place where faith grows strong enough to walk again. God, you have a way of speaking through stillness that no voice could ever match. You say more in silence than the world says in 1,000 shouts. In this quiet space, my heart begins to slow to the rhythm of grace. I notice things I have overlooked, the way light moves across the wall, the faint hum of life around me, the gentle reminder that I am held in a world you designed with care. Even my breath feels different now. Each inhale feels like receiving, each exhale like releasing. This is strength, to the ability to rest without guilt, to pause without fear. There are days, Lord, when the storms of life make stillness seem impossible, the noise of worry, the pull of responsibility, the chaos of the world, they all clamor for my attention. But even then, you call me to step aside, to find the quiet place within where you still dwell. You remind me that peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of perspective. When I am still before you, the storm loses its power, because I remember that no wave can drown the one who walks on water. Father, teach me to carry this stillness into the noise of the day. Let it be my shield when criticism comes, my anchor when anxiety rises, my sanctuary when the world feels too heavy. Let me learn to pause before I react, to breathe before I speak, to listen before I decide. In every moment that threatens to rush me, remind me that haste is rarely holy. You do not hurry me, so why do I hurry myself? Teach me the art of sacred pacing, the rhythm of grace that keeps me from burning out while trying to prove what has already been given. Sometimes, God, I mistake stillness for stagnation, as though pausing means I am falling behind. But you remind me that even in stillness, there is motion, subtle, invisible, transformative. Just as the seed does not strain to grow but simply rests in the soil, I, too, am growing here. Even when nothing seems to move, the roots of trust are deepening. The branches of patience are stretching. The blossoms of peace are beginning to form. And all of it happens quietly, in the unseen spaces of surrender. Lord, this stillness feels like a conversation without words. You speak through peace that passes understanding, through comfort that arrives without explanation, through strength that rises without striving. I find myself sitting in this calm, not because everything is solved, but because I no longer need it to be. There is freedom in that. There is power in letting go of outcomes and resting in your presence instead. The world tells me to keep moving, to keep chasing, to fill every silence with sound. But here, with you, I learn the sacred rebellion of being still. I learn that rest is not laziness. It is reverence. It is saying, I trust you enough to stop trying to do what only you can do. When I stop striving, I make space for you to move. When I am still, you remind me that your strength has never depended on my effort. Father, I used to equate strength with noise, with declarations, defenses, and displays of certainty. But now I see that true strength is quiet confidence. It is the ability to sit in uncertainty and still feel secure. It is the courage to choose peace when panic seems easier. It is knowing that silence can speak louder than 1,000 explanations. The stillness you give is not fragile, it is fierce. It does not avoid the world's noise. It outlasts it. Sometimes, Lord, I can feel this stillness like a river beneath my thoughts, steady, constant, flowing even when I forget it is there. It is the undercurrent of faith that carries me when my own strength falters. And when I stop to notice, I realize that the calm does not come from escaping life's chaos, but from learning to anchor myself in you amid it. You are not found only in quiet mornings like this. You are the quiet that exists even in the middle of the storm. God, let this stillness shape the way I live today. Let it guide my pace, my tone, my choices. When fear demands reaction, let me respond with peace. When frustration tries to take hold, let stillness remind me of patience. When I am tempted to rush ahead, let me remember that your timing is never late. May I move through this day not with the anxious energy of the world, but with the unhurried confidence of one who knows you are already there. In this stillness, Father, I am beginning to understand something beautiful, that peace is not something I must search for. It is something I must allow. It is not found by running, but by resting. It has been here all along. Waiting beneath the noise of my striving, I only had to stop long enough to feel it. And now that I do, I never want to lose it again. Let this quiet strength be the pulse that guides me through everything that comes next, steady and sure, as constant as your love. Father, as stillness settles like gentle dew upon my soul, I begin to sense another stirring, a quiet call to rise. It is not a call born of restlessness or urgency, but one that flows naturally from peace. I have been still long enough to hear you, and now you invite me to move again, not out of fear, but out of faith. The dawn outside my window grows brighter, and with it, I feel your whisper, It is time. Time to rise. Time to walk. Time to live what I have prayed. Lord, the stillness has given me strength, but now you ask me to turn that strength into purpose. My feet touch the floor like roots meeting the earth again. Grounded, steady, ready. The world beyond my quiet space waits, not as a battlefield to conquer, but as a garden to tend. Every person I meet, every word I speak, every small act of kindness can be part of your design if I move with intention. Let my steps be guided not by habit, but by heart. Let this morning's peace spill into everything I do. God, I know that purpose is not found in grand gestures, but in daily faithfulness. It is in showing up when it is easier to hide, in choosing compassion when it costs something, in forgiving when pride begs for distance. Purpose, I am learning, is less about what I achieve and more about how I love. So today, I do not ask for recognition or reward. I ask only that my actions echo your heart. Let the small things I do become holy under your gaze. Because when done with love, nothing is small. Father, I have spent so much of my life chasing meaning, as though it were something outside of me, hidden in success or approval. But now I see that meaning begins here in this moment, in this quiet conversation between us. It begins when I choose to rise with gratitude instead of anxiety, with trust instead of fear. Purpose is not waiting somewhere down the road. It is breathing right here, in this very breath you have given me. The way I wake, the way I speak, the way I notice beauty, all of it can become prayer if I live with awareness. Lord, help me to walk through this day, not as someone surviving, but as someone sent. Let my work, my words, and my waiting carry your reflection. When I speak, let it be from kindness, not ego. When I act, let it be from conviction, not compulsion. When I rest, let it be from peace, not fatigue. I want my life to become a rhythm that mirrors yours, a steady pulse of purpose woven with grace. Sometimes, God, I wonder what difference one life can truly make in a world so vast and wounded. But then I remember that even light begins as a spark, that oceans begin as raindrops, that every great movement began in the quiet heart of someone who dared to say yes. So I say yes again, Lord. Yes to being the light where there is shadow. Yes to being the voice of gentleness in a world too loud. Yes to being faithful even when I cannot see the outcome. Let my small yes join with yours and ripple outward farther than I will ever know. Father, I have learned that purpose is not always glamorous. It is not always seen or celebrated. Sometimes it is hidden in the ordinary, the smile that lifts someone's day, the patience to listen, the courage to keep going when no one applauds. Yet, you see it all. You count every quiet act of faith as sacred, and that truth gives me peace. I do not have to do something great to live with purpose. I simply have to walk with you. The morning light is stronger now, spilling across the room in soft gold. It feels like a promise. I take it as your reminder that purpose, like the sun, does not need to be forced. It rises naturally when the time is right. It does not compete with the darkness. It simply shines, and the darkness cannot remain. That is how I want to live today, not striving to be perfect, but simply being present enough for your light to flow through me. God, when fear tries to convince me that I am too small, too late, or too broken, remind me that you delight in using what the world overlooks. Remind me that purpose often hides in humility. The shepherd became a king. The fisherman became a messenger. The outcast became a vessel of grace. So why not me? Lord, why not now? If you can use a whisper to calm a storm, then surely you can use my life, however ordinary it may seem, to carry a spark of hope. Lord, let this sense of purpose steady me when the day begins to blur. Let it remind me that my life has meaning even in the quiet hours when no one notices. Let it anchor me when plans change or doors close. Help me to see that every moment, every challenge, every encounter is an opportunity to serve, to love, to reflect you. Let purpose be less about ambition and more about alignment with your will. Sometimes, Father, I feel the pull between doing and being, between purpose and peace, but maybe the two are not opposites at all. Maybe true purpose is born from peace, the kind that comes from knowing who I am in you. When I act from that place, I am no longer striving. I am simply flowing in rhythm with your heart. That is what I want this morning to teach me. That purpose is not something I have to chase. It is something I awaken to. One breath, one choice, one act of faith at a time. So as the sun continues to rise and the world awakens outside my window, I rise too, not hurriedly, but humbly. I rise with gratitude for the breath that fills my lungs, for the peace that steadies my hands, for the unseen grace that will follow me into the day. I do not know what today holds, but I know who holds me, and that is enough. Let every step I take be guided by this truth, that I was created not to rush through life, but to live it with holy purpose, to love well, to serve deeply, and to reflect the light that never fades. Father, as I rise into the day you have given me, I feel the quiet strength that was planted in stillness begin to unfold within me. It is subtle but steady, like the first movement of wind through leaves, unseen but deeply felt. The peace that once rested in silence now asks to be carried into motion, to flow through my words, my actions, my interactions. I sense you whispering, not in command, but in gentle guidance. Take what you found here and live it. So I step into this new day, not as someone escaping the calm, but as someone embodying it. Lord, grace is what I need most to walk this path. Not perfection, not certainty, just grace. The kind that softens the hard edges of the world and fills the space between my effort and your mercy. The kind that catches me when I stumble and turns failure into wisdom. Grace does not erase my humanity. It redeems it. It reminds me that every mistake is an opportunity to return to love. As I walk through this day, let grace be my rhythm, steady, patient, unhurried. God, I realize now that grace is not something I must earn. It is something I must allow. It does not rush in when I succeed. It meets me where I am, even in the places I wish to hide. It is the invisible bridge that carries me from shame to forgiveness, from striving to surrender. And if I am to walk with grace today, I must first walk with awareness, seeing every person, every moment, every challenge through the lens of compassion. Let me move through the world gently, not because I am fragile, but because I am free. Father, there will be moments today when patience will be tested, when harsh words will sting, when plans will unravel, when exhaustion will whisper that kindness can wait. In those moments, remind me that grace does not demand ease. It invites endurance. It asks me to breathe before I react, to remember before I judge, to forgive before I turn away. Let my first response be empathy, not ego. Let my presence bring peace, even when the world offers none in return. Lord, I want my steps to mirror your grace, the way you move through the world without hurry, the way you saw beauty in brokenness, the way you gave dignity to those who had none left. Teach me to pause long enough to see people as you see them, not as interruptions, but as invitations to love. Teach me to speak not just to be heard, but to heal. And when I cannot fix what is broken, help me to simply stay present, trusting that sometimes love's greatest act is staying. There is a quiet power in grace that changes how I see everything. It transforms the ordinary into sacred ground. The morning light on my face, the sound of laughter, even the ache of longing, all become reminders that life itself is a gift. Grace does not erase the pain, but it gives it purpose. It weaves meaning through moments that once felt meaningless. And as I walk, I begin to notice that grace is not something I carry alone. It is something that carries me. God, there will be noise today, so much noise. The rush of responsibilities, the hum of distractions, the pull of comparison, all trying to drown out this peace you have given me. But let grace be my filter, quieting what does not matter and amplifying what does. Let me choose presence over performance, depth over display, sincerity over approval. When I am tempted to measure my worth by outcomes, remind me that grace measures differently. It does not count what I accomplish. It counts how I love. Sometimes, Father, I forget that grace also means giving myself the kindness I extend to others. I am quick to forgive those around me, but harsh on my own heart. Yet, you remind me that grace is not partial, it flows in every direction. If I am to walk in grace, I must also learn to receive it. Help me to treat myself as you would, with gentleness, with patience, with mercy that renews instead of condemns. For only when I walk freely in grace can I offer it fully to others. Lord, when I encounter conflict or misunderstanding, let grace speak before pride does. When I feel unseen, let me remember that being known by you is enough. When anxiety creeps in, let grace remind me that peace is not the absence of pressure, but the presence of perspective. And when the day feels long, let me recall that grace stretches farther than fatigue. It sustains me when strength alone cannot. Father, as I move through this day, help me to walk with quiet assurance, not because I have mastered faith, but because faith has mastered me. Let me find beauty in small acts, a kind word, a patient silence, a smile offered without expectation. Let these small offerings ripple outward, unseen but unstoppable, carrying traces of your love wherever they go. Grace multiplies when given away, and I want my life to be part of that holy multiplication. The day may bring surprises, both joyful and hard, but I walk forward knowing that grace has already gone before me, preparing what I will need before I even ask. If I face difficulty, let grace be my strength. If I meet success, let grace be my humility. If I encounter fear, let grace be my courage. And when I grow weary, let grace remind me that I am never walking alone. God, let this day become a quiet symphony of grace in motion. Let every breath be gratitude, every step be faith, every encounter be compassion. Let me move not with haste, but with hollowness, carrying the peace of the morning into the noise of the world. Let my words heal, my actions uplift, and my silence restore. May I end this day not empty from effort, but full from love. 'Cause grace, your grace, has walked beside me from sunrise to sunset, shaping everything I am becoming. Father, as grace continues to shape my steps through this day, I find it leading me towards something I have long resisted: forgiveness. It is not the easy kind that comes from small misunderstandings, but the kind that asks me to open wounds I thought were closed. It feels like standing at the edge of something sacred and terrifying all at once. The peace you have given me whispers that true freedom cannot exist without forgiveness. And I know you are right. But, Lord, how do I begin to forgive what still hurts? How do I release what has defined me for so long? Lord, you know the hidden corners of my heart better than I do. You see the moments I replay in silence, the words that wounded, the betrayals that left me cautious, the regrets that whisper late at night. I have carried them as proof of survival, thinking that holding on kept me safe, but all it has done is weigh me down. Every grudge, every bitterness, every unspoken resentment has become a stone in my spirit. I am tired of carrying what you never meant for me to hold. I am ready to lay it down, even if my hands tremble as I do. God, forgiveness feels impossible because it seems unfair. It feels like releasing someone from a debt they never repaid. But then I remember, so did you. You forgave me when I could not repay what I owed. You looked at my failures and called me beloved. You did not wait for perfection. You forgave to make healing possible. That is what you ask of me now, not to excuse what happened, but to let it stop defining me. Forgiveness, I see now, is not setting the other person free. It is setting myself free to live again. Father, help me to understand that forgiveness is not forgetting. It is remembering differently without the poison of anger, without the weight of revenge. It is looking at what once broke me and seeing how you used it to make me stronger. It is choosing peace over punishment, healing over hatred, mercy over memory. When I forgive, I am not saying that what happened was right. I am saying that I will no longer let it rule my heart. That is the courage I ask for today, the courage to forgive without condition, to release without resentment, to trust that you will handle what I cannot. There are people I have not forgiven, Lord, some who hurt me deeply, and some who may never even know. But there are also parts of myself I have refused to forgive: the mistakes I made, the opportunities I missed, the ways I failed to love well. I have been my own harshest judge. Yet, you whisper that grace must extend inward too, Teach me to forgive myself with the same tenderness you show me. Help me to stop rehearsing old failures and start walking in the freedom you have already given. Lord, forgiveness feels like a process, not a single act. It must be practiced. Like breathing. Some days it comes easily, other days it feels impossible. But even the smallest step toward forgiveness is a step toward you. Each time I choose not to dwell on the wound, not to repeat the pain, not to feed the bitterness, I am reclaiming ground that once belonged to sorrow. I am making space for peace to grow again. Let that growth be steady and real. Sometimes, God, I wish forgiveness came with closure, that those who cause pain would suddenly understand, apologize, or change. But you remind me that forgiveness does not depend on their response. It depends on my release. It is not about fairness. It is about freedom. When I forgive, I am not rewriting the past, I am reclaiming my present. I am stepping out of the shadow of what was and into the light of what can be. That is redemption in motion, and it begins here, in this quiet conversation with you. Father, you know how hard it is to forgive when there is no apology. You know how deeply I long for justice, for things to make sense, but your justice is not revenge. It is restoration. You do not balance pain with pain. You balance it with purpose. You take what was meant for harm and turn it into healing. So I trust you with what I cannot reconcile. I give you every story that still stings, every memory that still bruises, every face that still haunts my heart. You can hold what I cannot carry anymore. God, help me to see forgiveness as strength, not surrender. It takes courage to release what pride wants to keep. It takes faith to believe that love can heal what bitterness cannot. When I forgive, I am not losing power. I am reclaiming it. I am refusing to let the past dictate my peace. Let that truth sink into the deepest parts of me. Let forgiveness become not just an act, but a way of being. Lord, I want to walk through this day lighter than I woke. I want my heart to beat freely, unchained by anger, unburdened by pain. Let forgiveness flow from me naturally, not as a duty, but as a reflection of who you are within me. Let it spill into my words, my tone, my presence. Let it touch the people around me, even those who do not know what it costs to let go. Father, if I falter, remind me that forgiveness is not perfection. It is persistence. It is trying again each time bitterness creeps back. It is returning to peace every time pain tries to reclaim the throne. It is choosing to bless instead of blame, to move forward instead of looking back. And even when forgiveness feels unfinished, remind me that you see the effort. You honor the intention, and you complete what I cannot. As I move through this day, Lord, let forgiveness become my quiet revolution. Let it disarm resentment, dissolve pride, and make room for love to reign again. Let my heart become a place where grace lives easily, where peace finds a home, where the echoes of old wounds no longer drown out the song of new beginnings. And when I look back someday, may I see this moment the morning I decided to forgive as the day my spirit learned to fly again. The day I stopped being defined by what broke me and started being defined by what healed me. The day I chose, at last, to walk in freedom because love, not pain, had the final word. Father, as forgiveness begins to flow through me, I can feel something deeper stirring within a quiet mending of the places that were once too tender to touch. It is not sudden or loud, but gentle, like light seeping through cracks that had long been hidden. For so long, I thought healing would come only when everything made sense, when the pain finally proved its purpose. But now I understand that healing is not about explanations. It is about presence, your presence, softly working in the unseen. Lord, there was a time when I believed brokenness was permanent, that once something shattered inside me, it could never be whole again. I tried to patch the pieces myself, to hold them together with pride and distraction. But the cracks only widened. It was not until I let go, until I surrendered my need to understand, that I began to feel the warmth of restoration. You do not rebuild me the way I was before. You make me new in ways I never imagined. Healing is not about returning to who I was, it is about becoming who I am meant to be. God, I have learned that healing begins in honesty. It starts when I stop pretending I am fine. It begins when I bring you the real pain, not the polished version. You do not flinch at my truth. You welcome it. You sit with me in the H and remind me that scars are not signs of failure. They are proof that pain has been touched by grace. You meet me where I am, in the middle of the mess, and whisper that it is okay to rest, to cry, to feel. You do not rush me through the process. You walk beside me through every tear, every silence, every small step toward wholeness. Father, healing has its own rhythm, sometimes swift, sometimes slow. There are days when peace comes easily, and others when old wounds ache again without warning. On those days, remind me that relapses do not mean regression. Healing is not a straight path. It curves and wins, but it never stops moving. Each breath I take in faith, each choice to trust again, is a thread in the fabric of restoration. You are weaving something strong and beautiful from what once felt broken beyond repair. Lord, help me to see that healing is not about forgetting what hurt me, but transforming how I carry it. The pain does not disappear. It simply becomes a teacher. It teaches compassion, patience, humility. It reminds me that everyone I meet carries unseen wounds, just like mine. Let my healing not make me proud, but kind. Let it turn my empathy into a bridge, so that others might find comfort in knowing they are not alone. God, I have discovered that sometimes healing comes not in the miracle of removal, but in the miracle of endurance. You do not always take away the thorn, but you give me strength to walk with it. You turn pain into perspective. The very thing that once brought me to my knees now becomes the reason I can stand with others. There is power in that quiet, redemptive power that only you could create. Father, there are still places in me that resist healing, parts that cling to the familiar H because it feels safer than the unknown peace. I confess that I sometimes hold on to pain as proof that I mattered, as if suffering alone could give me identity. But you remind me that my worth was never tied to my wounds. I am not defined by what happened to me. I am defined by what you are doing within me. So I release the identity of the wounded and take up the identity of the redeemed. Lord, I realize that healing is not a private miracle. It is a ripple. When I heal, I love better. I listen deeper. I forgive faster. Healing changes not only how I see myself, but how I see the world. It transforms bitterness into wisdom, regret into compassion, pain into purpose, and that is the miracle of grace. It multiplies the moment I share it. So let my healing not end with me, but move through me into every conversation, every embrace, every act of kindness. God, there are moments when I still feel fragile, and I wonder if the cracks will ever fully disappear. But then you remind me that even restored pottery carries its golden seams. What was once broken now glimmers with light. That is how I want my heart to shine, not flawless, but full of the beauty that comes from surviving. Let my story reflect your artistry, the way you turn loss into legacy, pain into praise, fragments into faith. Father, I do not want to rush this healing or measure its progress. I simply want to stay open to it, to let your love do what my logic cannot. Each morning, I wake a little stronger, a little softer, a little more whole. Some days, the change is too subtle to see, but I know it is there quietly mending what was torn, strengthening what was weak. Healing is happening even in the waiting, even in the ordinary moments that seem uneventful. Lord, remind me that healing does not erase the past. It redeems it. The same hands that allowed me to break are now shaping me with purpose. You waste nothing, not even the tears I thought were meaningless. Every cry was a seed. And now I begin to see the blooms of hope rising from what was buried. That is the wonder of your work. You bring resurrection where I once saw ruin. As I carry this peace through the day, let me be a vessel of healing for others. Let my words bring comfort instead of criticism. My presence bring calm instead of chaos. Help me to listen to others, not just to respond, but to understand. Healing is not only something to receive, it is something to give. When I offer grace to others, I feel it expand within me. When I choose to be gentle, I find that gentleness reflected back in my soul. God, let my healed heart never forget what brokenness taught me, that strength is not the absence of pain, but the courage to love again. Let me live as proof that healing is real, not because I am unscarred, but because I am unafraid to show where the light got in. Let this healing become my quiet testimony, a story not of what I survived, but of who I became because you stayed. And as this day unfolds, may I carry the stillness, grace, and forgiveness you have given me into everything I touch. May I move gently through this world, knowing that every healed heart becomes a spark of hope for another. Healing, after all, is not a destination, it is a way of walking, a way of living, a way of loving. And I choose to keep walking, one step at a time, in the light that only you can give. Father, as healing continues its quiet work within me, I begin to notice something unexpected: peace, not the fleeting kind that depends on circumstances or mood, but a deep, steady calm that feels like it comes from somewhere beyond me. It does not announce itself with grandeur or noise. It simply arrives and settles like morning light across my soul. I cannot explain it, and perhaps that is the beauty of it. It is not something I have achieved. It is something you have given. This peace feels sacred because it does not need to be understood to be real. Lord, for so long I chased peace as if it were a destination, a reward for solving every problem or reaching every goal. I thought peace meant the absence of struggle, the end of conflict, the perfection of life, but now I see how wrong I was. Peace is not the result of everything being right. It is the strength to remain calm when nothing is. It is the stillness that exists even while the world spins. It is the quiet voice that says, "You are safe, even when storms rage around me." That voice is yours, and I am learning to listen to it more than I listen to fear. God, I used to believe that peace would come when life finally slowed down, when the bills were paid, when the wounds were healed, when the future looked certain. But you have shown me that peace does not wait for ideal conditions. It grows in the middle of the imperfect. It is not fragile, it is fierce. It lives not in the absence of noise, but in the ability to find silence within it. It is not something I control. It is something I receive when I release control. Father, this peace changes how I move through the world. I no longer feel the need to rush or force outcomes. The more I trust, the more I see that everything unfolds as it should, in its own time, under your steady hand. The anxiety that once ruled my mornings now fades into gratitude. I breathe easier, not because life is simple, but because I finally know that I do not have to face alone. Peace is not a luxury, it is my birthright as your child. And I choose to live like I believe that. There are moments, Lord, when this peace feels almost fragile, as if one harsh word or sudden worry could shatter it. But you remind me that true peace cannot be broken by circumstance, because it is not built on circumstance, it is built on confidence in you. The world may shake, but you do not. So when I feel peace slipping through my grasp, I will not panic. I will pause, breathe, and remember that peace is not something I lost. It is something I forgot to notice. You never leave. I simply forget where to look. God, there is a quiet lesson hidden in this peace. It teaches me to live slower, to listen more, to see deeper. It teaches me that every breath is a small act of faith. Every moment of gratitude, a bridge between heaven and earth, teaches me that joy and sorrow can coexist without contradiction, that contentment does not erase longing, and that I can carry peace even in pain. Peace does not mean the storm is gone. It means I have found shelter in you. Father, there were seasons in my life when chaos felt normal, when I mistook exhaustion for purpose and business for worth. I filled my days with noise because silence felt unbearable. But now, as I rest in this newfound calm, I realize how starved my soul was for quiet. In this peace, I can finally hear you clearly. You do not speak in urgency or fear. You speak in rhythm with my breath, reminding me that I am loved, that I am safe, that I am home. Lord, this peace does not make me passive. It makes me grounded. It does not pull me away from life. It roots me deeper in it. Because of this peace, I can face uncertainty without unraveling, disappointment without despair, success without pride, Peace gives me perspective. It helps me see that I am not defined by what happens to me, but by how I respond to it. When I move from peace, everything changes. My words become softer, my reactions slower, my heart more open. Sometimes, God, I find myself wondering why you give peace even when I do not deserve it. And then I remember it is not a reward, but a reminder. It reminds me that grace is always bigger than guilt, that love is always stronger than fear. You do not give peace to the perfect. You give it to the willing. You give it to those who come to you as they are tired, flawed, and yearning. You meet them not with correction, but with calm. That is what you have done for me this morning, and I am grateful beyond words. Father, as I carry this peace into the world, help me protect it without becoming possessive. Let it flow through me, not stay in me. Let my presence bring calm where there is conflict, compassion where there is judgment, and stillness where there is noise. Let me be the kind of person whose peace is contagious, not because I am extraordinary, but because I have learned to rest in you. Let this peace be a light others can see, even when I do not speak. There will still be days when fear tries to return, when uncertainty clouds my mind, when the noise of life grows loud again. But even then, I will remember this truth. Peace is not something I must find again. It is something I must return to. It is already within me, planted there by your Spirit, waiting to be remembered. When I lose my footing, I will breathe and let the memory of this peace draw me back home. Lord, you are the author of peace, not the shallow kind that fades when circumstances change, but the kind that endures through chaos, through loss, through waiting. You are the calm in the center of every storm, the anchor in every drift, the steady pulse beneath the noise of life. And when I rest in you, I realize that nothing can separate me from that stillness, not distance, not fear, not time. As I rise from this prayer and begin another day, let peace walk beside me like a faithful friend. Let it color my decisions, my tone, my steps. Let it remind me that even when the world is loud, my heart can remain quiet. For in you, Lord, I have found what I searched for all along, not a peace that avoids the storm, but a peace that outlasts it. And though I cannot explain it, I know it is real, because it is you. Father, as peace settles deeper within me, I begin to feel the quiet return of strength, the kind that does not shout or demand to be seen, but simply stands firm. It is not the strength that comes from control or defiance. It is the strength that rises from surrender. It grows slowly, like roots beneath the surface, unseen but unshakable. Yesterday I prayed for calm. Today I ask for courage to continue, to persevere, to live with purpose even when the path ahead is uncertain. Lord, I used to think strength meant never breaking, never bending, never falling. But you have shown me that true strength is not the absence of weakness. It is the grace to keep moving even when weakness remains. Strength is not perfection. It is persistence. It is waking up one more time than I fall. It is choosing faith when fear feels easier. It is standing again, even with trembling knees, because I trust you to steady my steps. God, sometimes the world glorifies power that conquers, but you teach a different kind of strength, the kind that serves, forgives, endures. It is not about winning battles. It is about staying kind when the world is cruel. It is not about domination. It is about devotion. It is not about shouting louder than others. It is about listening longer. The strength you give does not harden the heart. It softens it while keeping it steadfast. It is strength with tenderness, conviction with humility. Father, I know that strength begins in the smallest choices. It is found not in grand gestures, but in quiet obedience. It is in the decision to speak truth when silence would be safer, to love when it costs something, to hope when cynicism feels clever. Every time I choose faith over fear, I grow stronger. Every time I forgive, I break a chain that once held me captive. Every time I choose patience, I prove that peace is not weakness, it is wisdom. Lord, there are mornings when I wake up weary before the day even begins. The weight of responsibility presses hard, and I wonder if I have anything left to give. But then I remember strength is not something I must produce. It is something I must allow. You are the source, not me. I do not draw strength from my own will, but from your endless well. When I reach the end of myself, that is where you begin. My weakness is not a failure. It is an opening for your power to flow through. God, I realize now that you do not measure strength by success, but by surrender. You do not look for perfect results. You look for faithful hearts. Sometimes strength means holding on, and sometimes it means letting go. Sometimes it means standing tall, and sometimes it means falling to my knees. But in every form, it means trusting you. The world may see defeat, but you see transformation. The moments that humble me are the same moments that build me. Father, give me strength not just to endure, but to remain gentle in the process. Let me not grow hard or bitter. Let my strength be quiet enough to listen, brave enough to care, and humble enough to admit when I am wrong. Teach me that strength is not about proving others wrong. It is about proving love right. The strongest people are not those who shout the loudest, but those who stay kind in the storm. Lord, I want to carry strength that others can lean on, not the kind that intimidates, but the kind that comforts. When others are weary, let my calm remind them of your peace. When they doubt, let my faith remind them that hope is still possible. I do not need to fix their pain. I only need to hold space for it. Strength is not always action. Sometimes it is presence. It is being there when someone else cannot stand alone. God, when I think of strength, I think of your patience with me. You never rush my growth or tire of my questions. You hold steady even when I waver. That is the model of strength I long to mirror, a love that does not quit, a grace that does not fade, a heart that keeps reaching even when rejected. Let me become a reflection of that endurance, not by my own effort, but by your Spirit working quietly through me. Father, there are days when I feel small in a vast world, one voice, one soul, one life among billions. Yet you remind me that strength is not measured in size, but in sincerity. A single act of compassion can shift a story. A single prayer can change a heart. A single moment of courage can alter the course of a life. Strength does not need to be seen to be significant. It lives in the unseen places, where love does its quiet, eternal work. Lord, when I face challenges I do not understand, help me to remember that strength grows through struggle. The fire that refines does not destroy. The weight that tests does not crush, it shapes. Every trial carries a lesson, and every wound becomes a doorway to wisdom. When I allow you to guide me through it, I may not always see the purpose, but I can trust the process, because you waste nothing, not even my fatigue. God, let me walk through this day with the strength that smiles instead of scowls, that uplifts instead of complains, that creates peace instead of conflict. Let my presence bring light into dark places, not because I am unbreakable, but because I know where to return when I am broken. I want to live from the quiet assurance that I am held, that no matter what the day brings, I have the strength to meet it not by might, but by faith. Father, I ask not for a life without challenges, but for the resilience to rise within them. Let me learn to bend without breaking, to trust without seeing, to give without expecting. Let my heart remain steady even when the winds of uncertainty blow strong. For strength is not built in comforted, it is revealed in crisis. And in every difficulty, you are teaching me how to endure with grace. Lord, as I close my eyes and breathe deeply before the day unfolds, I feel that familiar stillness, again the peace that flows into courage, the calm that turns into action. It is the same strength that carried me through the nights I thought I would not survive, the same strength that whispers now, "You can." It is not loud, but it is enough, and as long as you are near, I will continue, not perfectly, but faithfully, one steady step at a time. Father, as strength quietly anchors me, I begin to see how gratitude shapes the way I move through the world. It rises within me like sunlight after a long night, warm and steady, illuminating even the smallest corners of my life. Gratitude does not erase the hardships, but it gives them meaning. It reminds me that every breath, every heartbeat, every moment of stillness is a gift I did not earn yet am freely given. When I choose to see through the lens of thankfulness, the world changes shape not because it becomes perfect, but because my heart learns how to perceive it differently. Lord, I have spent so much of my life chasing what I thought was missing that I often overlooked what was already here. I looked for miracles in grand gestures and overlooked the quiet ones that filled my ordinary days. The laughter of someone I love, the morning light spilling across the floor, the kindness of a stranger, the rhythm of my own breathing. Each of these is a whisper of grace, a small reminder that I am surrounded by blessings I did not always recognize. Gratitude teaches me to pause, to notice, to appreciate before asking for more. God, gratitude is not always easy. There are mornings when pain feels louder than joy, when loss overshadows gain. But even then, I find that gratitude does not deny pain. It reframes it. It allows me to see that even sorrow carries purpose. Even endings hold beginnings. Gratitude is not pretending everything is finite. is acknowledging that even in the struggle, you are near. When I choose to thank you in the midst of confusion, it is not because I understand, but because I trust. Father, when I thank you for what I have, I begin to worry less about what I lack. The need for comparison fades, and contentment takes root. Gratitude pulls me out of the past and the future and grounds me in the present, the only place where life truly happens. It shifts my focus from scarcity to abundance, from complaints to celebration. I start to see that every day contains something to be grateful for, even if it is just the chance to begin again. Gratitude is the doorway to peace. And peace, once entered, brings freedom. Lord, gratitude changes how I respond to others. When my heart is thankful, judgment has less room to grow. I begin to appreciate people for who they are instead of resenting them for who they are not. Gratitude teaches me to love more freely, to listen more patiently, to forgive more quickly. It turns my heart outward, transforming my relationships into reflections of grace. When I thank you for the people in my life, their presence, their imperfections, their lessons, I start to see each connection as sacred. God, I realize that gratitude is an act of worship, a way of seeing you in all things. When I give thanks, I am not just acknowledging what is good. I am recognizing your hand in every detail. Gratitude keeps pride from hardening my heart and fear from stealing my joy. It reminds me that everything I have is temporary, yet everything you give has eternal significance. Even the simplest blessings, food, shelter, breath, become holy when received with awareness. Father, I want to live in a rhythm of gratitude, not just moments of it. I want thankfulness to be the language my heart speaks fluently, even when words fail. When the day begins, let my first thought be one of appreciation, not anxiety. When the day ends, let my last thought be one of remembrance, not regret. Let gratitude become a habit so deeply woven into my soul that it shapes how I see, speak, and live. Lord, I have learned that gratitude is contagious. It multiplies the moment it is shared. A single act of thankfulness can soften a hardened heart, mend a broken bond, or lighten a heavy spirit. When I thank others sincerely, I remind them that they matter. Gratitude has the power to turn strangers into friends and moments into memories. It transforms the ordinary into extraordinary, not by changing the circumstance, but by changing the lens through which it is viewed. God, when I look back on my life, I see how gratitude has always been there, even in disguise. The heartbreaks that pushed me closer to you, the losses that taught me resilience, the delays that refined my patience, all of them were quiet gifts preparing me for something greater. What once felt like disappointment now looks like direction. Gratitude turns hindsight into wisdom and pain into perspective. It helps me see that nothing was wasted, that every step, no matter how uncertain, was leading me somewhere sacred. Father, help me to carry gratitude not only in words but in actions. Let me show my thankfulness through the way I treat others, with kindness, with gentleness, with grace. Let gratitude flow through my choices, guiding how I give, how I serve, how I speak, True gratitude is not silent. It expresses itself through generosity. The more I give, the more I realize that abundance is not about possession, it is about perspective. Lord, there will be days when gratitude feels far away, when my heart grows weary and my faith feels thin. On those days, remind me that gratitude does not require perfection. Even a single breath of thanks can shift the atmosphere of the soul. When I cannot see the blessing, help me to remember that it is still there, waiting to be revealed. Gratitude, like light, does not disappear when clouds form. It simply waits for me to notice again. God, I want to live each day as if it were both a gift and an offering, to rise with gratitude, to work with purpose, to love with sincerity, to rest with peace. Let every heartbeat become a quiet thank you, every step a movement of praise. Gratitude turns life itself into prayer, a constant conversation between creation and Creator. It is not just something I practice. It is something I become. Father, as I walk forward, let me not rush past the blessings scattered along my path. Let me see beauty in simplicity, hope in hardship, and grace in the ordinary. Gratitude does not require everything to be right. It simply requires me to notice what already is. And in that noticing, I find joy, not the kind that depends on circumstance, but the kind that flows endlessly from your presence. Lord, I will move through this day with open eyes and an open heart, ready to see your goodness in the details and your love in the unexpected. Gratitude will be my compass, guiding me back to peace whenever I stray. For the more I give thanks, the more I realize that I already have everything I need: the gift of life, the breath of this moment, and the steady presence of you, always near, always enough. Father, as gratitude deepens its roots within me, I begin to understand another quiet lesson. Comes with it the courage to let go. Letting go is not about giving up. It is about making room. It is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is trusting that what belongs to me will remain, and what leaves was never meant to define me. I used to hold tightly to things, people, and plans, afraid that release meant loss. But now I see that letting go is not the end of love. It is its purest form. It is saying, I trust you more than I trust my own grasp. Lord, so much of my struggle has come from trying to control what was never mine to command. I've fought to hold together what was meant to change, to fix what was meant to fade, to understand what was meant only to be accepted. I carried burdens that were never assigned to me and mistook their weight for purpose. Yet in your stillness, you whisper that real freedom begins when my hands stop clinging and start opening. Letting go is the language of faith, believing that you are still writing the story, even when I no longer hold the pen. God, I used to think peace came from having everything in order, but now I realize it comes from releasing the illusion that I ever could. The world teaches me to grasp tighter, to secure, to defend, to possess, but you teach me the sacred art of surrender. In your way, losing is not defeat, it is transformation. The pruning that feels painful today is often the preparation for tomorrow's growth. You take nothing from me without the intent to fill the space with something better, sometimes deeper trust. sometimes clearer vision, sometimes simply rest. Father, there are memories I still clutch too tightly, moments I replay in endless loops, hoping the outcome might somehow change. But you remind me that I cannot heal by rewriting the past. I can only heal by releasing it. The past is a teacher, not a home. Every mistake, every heartbreak, every delay, it all carried its lesson, and now it is time to learn and let it rest. When I let go of what was, I make room for what is. I begin to live fully in the present moment, where you meet me with new mercies every morning. Lord, letting go does not mean I stop caring. It means I stop carrying what was never mine alone. I release not from indifference, but from reverence. It is not abandonment, it is alignment. I let go because I finally believe you can handle what I cannot. You see the whole tapestry when I only see tangled threads. What I call loss, you call rearrangement. What I call ending, you call redirection. And every time I choose release over resistance, I step closer to peace. God, I have learned that sometimes you remove things from my life, not as punishment, but as protection. The door that closes may be the very mercy I need, but cannot yet recognize. The friendship that fades, the opportunity that falls through, the plan that unravels, all of these moments feel painful. But perhaps they are the gentle turning of your hand, guiding me toward a path I would have missed if I had gotten everything I wanted. I may not always understand, but I can trust your timing. Father, give me courage to let go not only of what hurts, but also of what once helped. Growth means change, and sometimes even good things must be released to make space for better ones. The comfort zones I cling to can quietly become cages. Letting go allows me to step into the unknown, where faith is tested and strengthened. I do not want a life built on safety. I want a life built on trust. Letting go is how I move from fear to freedom, from striving to surrender, from control to communion with you. Lord, teach me to release not only what is external, but also what lives within me. Old guilt, silent resentment, hidden fears. These are the invisible weights that keep me from rising. Forgiveness is the act of letting go inwardly, the unclenching of the heart that has been holding pain too long. Help me forgive those who have wronged me, not because they deserve it, but because my soul deserves peace. Help me forgive myself, too, for the choices I made when I did not know better. Freedom begins in forgiveness, and forgiveness begins in letting go. God, I see now that letting go is not something I do once, it is something I must do daily. Each morning, I must release the temptation to control the day, to worry about outcomes, to replay yesterday's regrets. Letting go is a rhythm, a breath, a trust that repeats itself. When I loosen my grip, I find that you are holding me all along. I am not falling. I am being carried. Father, I want to live with open hands, open to give, open to receive, open to change. Let my hands no longer be fists of fear, but vessels of faith. Help me to hold blessings lightly, to honor them without possessing them. Everything I have is borrowed grace, the people I love, the time I am given, the opportunities I hold, they are gifts. not guarantees. When I release my claim of ownership, I finally experience true belonging not to things, but to you, Lord. Letting go also means trusting that others have their own paths to walk. I cannot carry everyone, nor can I control their choices. All I can do is love, pray, and release. When I try to save what only you can redeem, I only exhaust myself. But when I step aside and let your work unfold, I see miracles I never could have made happen on my own. Letting go of control is not losing influence. It is gaining peace. God. Sometimes the hardest thing to release is the version of myself that no longer fits, the one built from fear, from expectations, from the desire to please everyone but you. As I let go of who I thought I should be, I make room for who I am becoming whole, present, and free. You are not asking me to be more. You are inviting me to be true, and that truth is found not in striving, but in surrender. Father, as this morning unfolds, I feel lighter not because everything is easy, but because I no longer need to carry what was never mine. I will walk into this day not trying to control it, but ready to receive it. I will trust that whatever leaves creates space for what is meant to arrive, and in that space, I will find you again constant, steady, faithful, teaching me that letting go is not loss, but love in motion, guiding me toward everything that is eternal. Father, as the quiet courage of letting go settles into my heart, I begin to sense a deeper calm rising from within. It is not the silence of emptiness, but the stillness of trust. It feels like standing beside a gentle stream, nothing forced, nothing rushed, just the natural rhythm of peace flowing quietly through me. This stillness is not the absence of sound or motion. It is the sacred center where I can finally hear you, in that soft place between breaths, where words fade and awareness deepens. I realize that you have been here all along, waiting not for me to speak louder, but to listen more gently. Lord, the world around me moves fast. There are endless things to do, voices to answer, and worries to manage. Yet in this morning stillness, I remember that life is not a race but a rhythm. The more I chase, the further peace slips away. But when I truly pause, everything aligns again. I see how you never hurry, yet nothing in your creation is ever late. The sun rises without anxiety. The waves reach the shore without resistance, and the trees grow without striving. You teach me that peace is not found by adding more, but by surrendering what does not belong. God, stillness is not easy. My mind resists it. My heart fills with noise. My thoughts scatter like leaves in the wind. Yet I know that within the quiet, clarity waits. Stillness is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the strength to stop running from discomfort, to sit with uncertainty, to breathe through the ache instead of escaping it. You are not found in the storm of my thoughts, but in the calm that follows when I choose to trust instead of control. Father, when I quiet my spirit, I begin to see how many of my worries are built on illusions. I fret about what might happen, forgetting that you are already there. I replay what went wrong, forgetting that you have already forgiven. Stillness brings me back to the truth that I am safe, not because life is predictable, but because you are unchanging. You are the still point in my spinning world, the constant in my shifting seasons. Lord, the stillness you offer is not a retreat from life, but a way to live it more fully. It teaches me how to be present, how to taste the moment before it fades, how to listen before I speak. In stillness, I notice things I used to miss, the subtle grace in a stranger's smile, the way morning light filters through the curtains, the quiet comfort of my own heartbeat. Each small detail becomes a doorway to gratitude, and gratitude opens again to peace. God, sometimes I confuse stillness with inactivity, but you remind me that they are not the same. Stillness is not doing nothing. It is doing what matters with a quiet heart. It is moving with purpose, not panic. It is responding, not reacting. When I live from stillness, my actions become more intentional, my words more compassionate, my energy more focused. The noise of the world loses its power because I have found a deeper sound, the hum of your presence within me. Father, help me to protect this stillness from the demands that try to steal it. The world celebrates busy hands, but rarely honors a quiet soul. Yet I know that the greatest work is often done in silence, in prayer, in reflection, in the quiet acts of love that no one sees. Teach me that stillness is not a pause before life resumes. It is life unfolding exactly as it should. I do not need to chase meaning. I need only to be still enough to receive it. Lord, I want to carry this stillness into the noise of the day. Let me walk calmly through chaos, listen patiently when others rush to speak, and breathe deeply when fear tightens its grip. Let my calm be a refuge for others, a gentle reminder that peace is possible even here. Even now, when the world shouts for attention, let my soul whisper with faith. When anxiety builds walls, let stillness build bridges. When anger fuels division, let quietness restore perspective. God, I have learned that stillness does not always mean serenity. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable, like waiting for an answer that does not come, like standing in the tension between what was and what will be. But even in that tension, you are working. Stillness is not stagnation. It is gestation. It is the holy space where transformation takes root. Just as seeds grow unseen beneath the soil, you are forming new strength in the silence of my waiting. Father, in stillness I realize that I do not need every question answered. I only need to know that you are near. I do not have to understand the entire plan. I only have to take the next step in peace. Stillness gives me permission to stop striving for clarity and start trusting in mystery. You are not a puzzle to be solved, but a presence to be experienced. In the quiet, I feel you closer than breath, steady, sure, eternal. Lord, the more I practice stillness, the more I notice how often you speak without words, through the beauty of creation, through the kindness of others, through the calm after tears. You communicate love in ways language cannot contain. The more I listen, the more I realize that silence itself is sacred conversation. Stillness is where prayer becomes less about asking and more about being. It is where faith matures from words into awareness. God, help me to create moments of stillness throughout the day, not just in the morning when the world is slow. Let me pause before I react, breathe before I decide, reflect before I speak. Let stillness become my way of living, not just my way of praying. When I move too fast, remind me that haste is the enemy of peace. When I feel restless, remind me that rest is not earned. It is allowed. Father, as this quiet morning deepens, I sense a gentle truth unfolding within me. The more I surrender, the more I am sustained. I do not need to fill the silence. I need to feel it. I do not need to chase peace. I need to return to where it already lives. Stillness is not a destination I must reach. It is the home I have never truly left. Beneath every thought, beyond every fear, your calm presence waits. And as I rest in that awareness, I realize that the world outside can roar, but inside, within the sacred stillness you have planted, my soul remains unshaken. Father, as I rise from the quiet stillness that filled my soul, I feel you leading me toward another truth: patience. It is not a word that comes easily to me, for my heart often rushes ahead of your timing. I have wanted answers before I was ready to receive them, and I have tried to open doors that were not yet meant to be unlocked. But in this unfolding journey, I begin to see that patience is not passive. It is the active strength of trust. It is faith stretched across time, proving that what is delayed is not denied, and what is unseen is not forgotten. Lord, patience is the bridge between prayer and fulfillment. It is standing in the space between promise and manifestation, choosing not to give up even when nothing seems to move. The waiting can feel endless, the silence heavy, the uncertainty loud, yet within this space of stillness, I begin to understand that waiting is not wasted when it is filled with faith. You are not ignoring my prayers. You are aligning them with purpose. You are shaping me to receive what I once thought I was ready for but truly was not. Patience, then, becomes my quiet participation in your divine timing. God, I confess that I have often mistaken impatience for passion. I thought that pushing harder meant believing stronger. But now I see that true belief rests in surrender. Patience does not mean I stop moving. It means I stop forcing. It is walking steadily in the direction of hope, trusting that you are preparing the road, even when I cannot see its end. I do not have to rush the process, because the process itself is holy. The flower does not bloom by demand, nor does the sunrise appear faster, because I plead it arrives when it is meant to, and its timing is perfect. Father, teach me to wait with grace, not frustration, to find purpose in the pauses and meaning in the in-betweens. Help me see that the season of waiting is not empty. It is the classroom where faith learns endurance. The soil of delay often grows the deepest roots. Every unanswered prayer carries the potential for a greater blessing. Every moment of uncertainty a chance to deepen my trust. The path may feel still, but something unseen is moving. In the quiet spaces, you are working miracles I may only recognize in hindsight. Lord, I have realized that impatience often comes from the fear that you might forget me, that good things might never arrive. But faith whispers a different truth. You do not forget. You do not delay without purpose. The waiting is your invitation to draw closer, to know you not only as the giver of blessings, but as the blessing itself. when I stop demanding and start listening. I hear your quiet assurance that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. God, patience teaches me compassion for myself, for others, and for the journey we all walk. It helps me see that everyone is growing, healing, and learning in their own time. When I am patient, I stop comparing my timeline to someone else's. I no longer measure my worth by progress I can count, but by the peace I can hold. Patience softens my heart and reminds me that love is never hurried. It allows grace to have space to breathe. Father, even nature itself is patient. The ocean waits for the moon to pull its tide. The seed rests beneath the soil until warmth calls it upward, and the mountain forms slowly over years of unseen movement. Everything in creation trusts your rhythm. Why then should I fear when my own life takes time to bloom? Help me remember that delays do not define worth, they refine character. Patience is not punishment, it is preparation. You are not withholding what I seek. You are strengthening me to sustain it. Lord, there are days when waiting feels like wandering. I question if I have heard you correctly, if I am still on the right path. But even in those moments, your peace whispers through my doubt. Be still, I am here. It is in the waiting that I learn to walk by faith and not by sight. Each step forward, no matter how slow, is an act of trust. You are not measuring my pace, only my persistence. Waiting teaches me to hold on without clinging, to hope without controlling, to love without demanding. God, patience is also about timing with others. There are people I wish would understand me sooner, change faster, or heal more completely. But just as you are patient with me, I must learn to be patient with them. Everyone carries their own story, their own battles unseen. When I stop expecting immediate transformation, I begin to see growth that is quiet but real. Love that endures is built upon patience. Relationships that last are rooted in understanding that time, not pressure, brings healing. Father, sometimes patience means living in the tension between faith and frustration. It means showing up every day, doing what I can, and trusting you with what I cannot. It means not letting disappointment harden my heart or delay poison my joy. Patience is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of it. It is choosing peace even when fear is easier. It is choosing faith even when evidence is thin. It is choosing gratitude even when results are unseen. Lord, I want to learn how to wait like the dawn calm, steady, certain. The night does not question if morning will come. It simply prepares to receive it. Teach me to wait with that same quiet confidence, knowing that what you have promised will come in its season. Help me to see the beauty in slow progress, to trust that unseen roots will one day bear visible fruit. What feels delayed today may be the foundation for something eternal tomorrow. God, in patience I find humility. I am reminded that my timeline is not the measure of truth. My urgency does not move you. My trust does. When I rest in your pace, I find peace. When I release my deadlines, I make room for divine design. Patience allows me to walk with you instead of ahead of you. It turns waiting into worship and delay into devotion. Father, As the light of morning touches the earth, I realize that every sunrise is a lesson in patience. The world waits through the night, trusting that the light will return, and it always does. In the same way, I will wait for what you have promised, knowing that every dawn begins in darkness. I will not rush your timing, for your timing is perfect. In every pause, in every quiet hour of waiting, you are teaching me how to be strong without striving, and how to trust without trembling. Patience is not the distance between me and the blessing, it is the path that leads me to it. Father, as patience settles deeper into my spirit, a new kind of light begins to rise within me, the light of understanding. It is not the blinding brilliance of sudden revelation, but a soft, steady glow that unfolds as my heart learns to see beyond appearances. This light does not change the world around me. It changes the way I see it. It is the quiet illumination that reveals meaning in what once felt meaningless, purpose in what once felt painful. And I realize now that understanding is not about knowing more, it is about perceiving with grace. Lord, there were seasons when I demanded answers, when I begged you to explain why certain things happened the way they did. I thought that understanding meant having reasons, but now I see that it means having peace. True understanding is not born from explanation, but from revelation, the kind that speaks not to my mind, but to my soul. It whispers, "You may not understand the plan, but you can trust the planner." And in that trust, the darkness loses its power. The unknown no longer feels like a threat, but a sacred invitation to lean deeper into faith. God, your wisdom does not shout. It unfolds. It does not come all at once, but piece by piece, moment by moment, as my heart grows ready to receive it. The light of understanding comes gently, never forcing itself, always waiting until I am still enough to notice. And when it comes, it transforms not just how I see the world, but how I move within it. I begin to see patterns where I once saw chaos, lessons where I once saw loss, and grace where I once saw failure. The pieces that once seemed random begin to form a tapestry, a story not of confusion, but of care. Father, understanding teaches me humility. It reminds me that my view is limited, that my judgments are often premature. How many times have I called something a setback, only to discover it was the beginning of a blessing? How many tears have I shed over doors that closed, not knowing they were protecting me from harm? You see the entire horizon, where I see only the next step. And yet you love me enough to walk beside me through every shadow of misunderstanding until I can see again. Lord, the light of understanding also helps me see others more clearly. It allows me to look beyond their words and actions to the pain or hope beneath them. It reminds me that every person is fighting a battle I cannot see, that kindness is not weakness but wisdom. Understanding gives birth to compassion, the ability to stand in someone else's shoes without judgment. It is through understanding that I learn to love, not because people are perfect, but because you love them despite their imperfections. God, this light does not erase the mystery of life, it sanctifies it. There will always be questions that remain unanswered. Perhaps they are not meant to be solved. They are meant to shape me. The deeper I walk with you, the more I realize that understanding is not about control, it is about surrender. It is about letting your wisdom guide where mine cannot. It is about accepting that your no is sometimes a greater mercy than the yes I crave. Every unanswered prayer, every delayed promise, every detour on my path, all of them carry threads of divine design. Father, when I look back at the moments I once called darkness, I see how your hand was there, even when I could not feel it. What I thought was silence was actually guidance. What I thought was abandonment was protection. The light of understanding allows me to look back with gratitude instead of regret. It shows me that even pain was not wasted, it was preparation. Every wound became a window through which your light could enter. Every failure became fertile ground for wisdom to grow. Lord, understanding also means accepting that not everything will be understood. Some mysteries are meant to remain sacred, beyond the grasp of reason, inviting me to trust more deeply. I do not have to solve every question to live peacefully within it. There is hollowness in uncertainty when it is held with faith. To walk with you is to walk with wonder, to marvel at what I cannot explain, to rest in what I cannot predict, to find beauty even in what I cannot comprehend. God, sometimes I mistake information for wisdom, but they are not the same. Information fills the mind. Wisdom fills the heart. Understanding is born from wisdom, not knowledge. It comes from sitting with you, not searching the world. The more I seek answers outside, the more restless I become. But when I turn inward, into the quiet where your spirit dwells, understanding unfolds naturally like dawn breaking over the hills. Not because I forced it, but because light cannot help but rise. Father, I want to live with eyes of understanding, seeing the invisible goodness woven through ordinary days, recognizing blessings disguised as burdens. When I meet frustration, let me ask, what is this teaching me? When I face pain, let me ask, how is this shaping me? When I experience joy, let me pause long enough to give thanks. Understanding is not about having everything go right. It is about finding meaning even when it does not. It transforms life from a series of random events into a divine conversation. Lord, help me to walk with discernment, the kind of understanding that guards my heart without closing it. Let me recognize the difference between what deserves my energy and what requires my release. Understanding teaches boundaries, not bitterness. It teaches wisdom without pride, love without blindness. It allows me to see not only the world's beauty, but also its fragility, and to respond not with despair, but with deeper compassion. God, the more I grow in understanding, the more I realize how vast your love truly is. You see every thought before I think it, every wound before I feel it, every need before I speak it. And still, you are patient, waiting for me to grow into the truth I am praying for. Understanding reveals not just how great you are, but how near. You are not distant wisdom, but living presence. You are not a riddle to solve, but a relationship to trust. Father, as this morning unfolds into day, let the light of understanding be my compass. Let it steady me when confusion clouds my vision. Let it humble me when pride tempts my certainty. Let it soften me when judgment rises. And above all, let it remind me that understanding is not the end of faith, it is its flowering. For faith begins where knowledge ends, and understanding blooms where surrender begins. In that sacred exchange between knowing and trusting, I find peace, a peace that does not depend on explanation, but on the quiet, unwavering assurance that everything, even the unanswered, belongs to your divine purpose. Father, as the light of understanding deepens within me, it gives birth to something even more radiant: hope. Not the fragile kind that flickers in fair weather, but the kind that endures through storms, rooted in the certainty of your faithfulness. Hope has a different sound when it rises from brokenness. It sings with the quiet conviction that what is lost is not gone, and what is weary can still be renewed. It is not the denial of pain, but the refusal to let pain define the end. Hope is the pulse of heaven beating softly within my human heart, whispering that no night lasts forever. Lord, hope is not wishful thinking. It is a sacred knowing. It is the courage to believe that your promises remain, even when my circumstances shift. It is trusting that even if I cannot see the sunrise yet, the earth is still turning toward it. There were times when hope felt too heavy to hold, when disappointment made my hands tremble and my spirit tired. But you never shamed my weakness. Instead, you met me there. You sat with me in the ashes and whispered, "This is not where the story ends." And somehow, those words planted seeds of life in soil that once felt barren. God, I used to think hope depended on outcomes, that I could only have it if things worked out the way I wanted. But now I know that hope is not about what I see, it is about who I trust. Hope does not promise that everything will be easy. It promises that I will never walk alone. It is not blind optimism. It is steady faith in motion. Hope is what allows me to look what is broken, still believe in healing, to face what has ended and still believe in beginnings. It is the quiet strength that rises again after every fall. Father, when I lose hope, it is often because I have placed it in fragile things, in people, in plans, in my own understanding. But you are the unshakable foundation where hope finds its home. You are the constant through every changing season, the anchor in every storm. When my hope is rooted in you, it no longer depends on conditions. It becomes unbreakable, not because life is certain, but because your love is. Lord, I see now that hope grows best in the soil of surrender. It is not born in control, but in release. When I finally let go of my need to know the outcome, hope blooms quietly in its place. It teaches me to live in expectation without anxiety, to look forward without fear. Hope does not demand proof. It invites trust. It does not wait for perfect timing. It believes that every moment can be redeemed, even when nothing seems to change on the surface. Hope works beneath it, weaving unseen renewal through the fabric of faith. God, hope is also what gives purpose to my waiting. Without it, the pause feels heavy, but with it, the pause becomes sacred. Hope keeps me awake in the night, believing that morning will come. It teaches me that delay does not mean denial, and silence does not mean absence. Every unanswered prayer becomes a space for hope to grow deeper roots. Hope reminds me that what I cannot yet see may still be preparing itself in grace. Father, I want to live as a vessel of hope, not just a receiver of it. Let my life become a light for those walking through their own shadows, Let my words lift, not wound. Let my presence remind others that renewal is always possible. Hope multiplies when it is shared, and I do not want to keep it hidden. I want to live in a way that makes others believe again, not in me, but in the goodness that still exists, the love that still heals, the God who still restores. Lord, there are moments when hope feels fragile, when the weight of the world presses too heavily on my shoulders. On those days, remind me that hope does not depend on my strength, but on yours. When I am too tired to believe, let your Spirit believe through me. When my prayers feel empty, let your promises fill the silence. Hope is not something I must create, it is something I receive. It flows from you, steady and strong, like light from the sun that never stops shining, even when clouds obscure the view. God, I have learned that hope often arrives disguised. It comes through tears that cleans the heart, through loss that clears the way for new beginnings, through endings that open unexpected paths. It does not always look like rescue. Sometimes it looks like resilience. It is not always loud or immediate. Sometimes it is the quiet conviction that simply says, keep going. Hope whispers that I am not finished yet, that there is still more grace to discover, still more love to give, still more beauty to unfold. Father, hope also teaches me gratitude. When I stop focusing on what I lack and start seeing what remains, I find reasons to keep believing. Every breath is proof that life continues. Every sunrise is a promise that renewal is real. Even in the smallest joys, the laughter of a child, the warmth of sunlight, the comfort of prayer, hope hides, waiting to be found. It reminds me that the presence of pain does not erase the presence of blessing. The two can coexist, and through their tension, faith matures. Lord, help me to protect my hope from cynicism. The world teaches skepticism as wisdom, but you teach me that believing is the greater strength. Let me never become so cautious that I forget how to dream. Hope requires vulnerability, the courage to open my heart again after disappointment. It asks me to risk love again, to try again, to pray again, not because I am certain of success, but because I am certain of you. God, hope renews not just the spirit, but the mind. It changes how I think, how I speak, how I see. It transforms fear into expectation and despair into determination. It teaches me that I am not defined by what happened to me, but by what I choose to believe in spite of it. Hope gives me eyes to see possibility where others see endings. It invites me to live today with the faith that tomorrow holds more light than darkness. Father, as this morning unfolds into its full brightness, I feel that light reflecting within me, the warmth of hope made real. I do not know what this day will bring, but I know who brings it, and that is enough. I will carry hope not as a fragile dream, but as a sacred certainty, a fire that no wind can extinguish. Hope will be the rhythm of my heart, the language of my prayers, the posture of my soul, and as long as I hold on to it, I will keep walking steadily, quietly, faithfully toward everything you have promised, trusting that even now, renewal has already begun. Father, as the quiet fire of hope warms my soul, I feel you leading me deeper into the tender place where true healing begins. Gives light, but healing gives life. It is not the quick mending of wounds or the erasure of pain, but the sacred process of wholeness returning. Healing is not about forgetting. It is about transforming. It is the miracle that turns scars into stories and pain into wisdom. I once thought healing would come only when everything was fixed, but now I see that it begins when I stop hiding the broken pieces and offer them to you. Lord, you never asked me to be unhurt. You asked me to be honest. The world taught me to conceal my wounds, to smile when I was breaking, to pretend strength when I was drowning. But you, in your mercy, invite me to bring everything into the light: the pain, the shame, the anger, the fear. You do not recoil from my brokenness. You move closer to it. You sit with me in the raw places I thought were too dark for your holiness, and you whisper that even here, I am not beyond redemption. God, the heart is a fragile thing, yet you designed it to endure. It stretches to love and breaks to learn. Every fracture becomes a doorway through which your grace can enter. Healing does not always feel like a miracle. Sometimes it feels like mourning. It begins with tears, with release, with the surrender of what cannot return. But slowly, through the rhythm of your patience, pain begins to loosen its grip. I breathe again. I forgive again. I live again. Healing is not an event, it is a relationship with your love, unfolding one heartbeat at a time. Father, teach me to be gentle with my own healing. Some days the H will resurface, and that does not mean I am failing. It means I am still human. Healing does not erase the memory, it rewrites its meaning. The same memory that once brought sorrow can become the reminder of how far I have come. What once was a wound becomes a witness. You turn what was meant for harm into something that refines. And even the pain that remains becomes a holy teacher, shaping me into someone softer, stronger, and more compassionate. Lord, there are parts of my heart I still resist surrendering, old hurts that I have carried so long they feel like home. But you do not rush me. You wait until I am ready. Healing happens not through force, but through trust. Every time I release a piece of pain into your hands, you return a piece of peace into mine. You do not simply restore what was lost. You renew what was possible. You do not patch me back to who I was. You are forming me into who I am meant to be. God, I have learned that healing often hides in humility. It takes courage to admit the places that still hurt, to ask for help when pride wants to pretend. Yet when I do, I find you already there in the hands that comfort, in the words that soothe, in the quiet moments when I can finally breathe again. Healing is rarely loud. It often happens in stillness, in the small choices of kindness toward myself, in the decision to keep showing up even when I feel fragile. Father, sometimes the hardest healing is the one I owe myself, the forgiveness for the things I said, the mistakes I made, the times I did not know better. Self-forgiveness feels heavy because it requires humility and hope to coexist. But you remind me that the same mercy I offer others must be given inward too. How can I love free while keeping myself bound? Help me to see myself through your eyes, not as broken beyond repair, but as beloved beyond measure. Healing begins when I accept that I am still worthy, even in the middle of my mending. Lord, teach me to see healing not as something that happens to me, but as something that happens through me. The wounds I carry can become wells of empathy, and the compassion born from my pain can become balm for others. Healing is multiplied when shared. The comfort I receive from you is never meant to stop with me. It is meant to flow outward into the lives of those who are still struggling to believe they can be whole. Let my healed heart be a place of refuge, a reminder that no darkness is final, no sorrow is wasted. God, I now understand that healing does not mean the absence of pain. It means the presence of peace despite it. The memory may linger, but it no longer defines me. The storm may return, but it no longer uproots me. You have built within me a steadiness that comes not from denial, but from trust. Healing does not promise that I will never be hurt again. It promises that I will never be destroyed by it. It teaches me resilience, not resistance. Acceptance, not avoidance. Father, I have also come to see that time alone does not heal. It is love that does. Time may dull the edges, but only your love restores what was lost. It is love that breathes new life into weary places, that stitches together what seemed torn beyond repair. Every act of love, every moment of grace, every quiet forgiveness is another step toward wholeness. And as love grows, fear shrinks. My heart becomes lighter, freer, more open to the beauty of now. Lord, there is a strange beauty in healed scars. They are reminders not of defeat, but of deliverance. They speak of pain endured and peace restored. They are not marks of weakness, but maps of grace, evidence that I have walked through fire and did not burn, that I have faced the storm and found you in the eye of it. Healing does not erase the story, it sanctifies it. It turns what could have been bitterness into testimony, what could have been despair into depth. God, help me to carry this healing into the world, not as armor, but as light. Let me meet the wounded with tenderness, for I know their silence. Let me sit beside those who cannot yet speak their pain, for I once had no words either. Let me offer hope, not from theory but from experience. For when you heal one heart, you heal many through it. Healing is never solitary, it ripples outward, transforming lives that will never know its source. Father, as this morning stretches into day, I feel my heart beating with a quieter rhythm, a rhythm not of fear or striving, but of peace reborn. I do not have to prove that I am healed. I only have to live as though I believe it. I will no longer guard my heart with walls of fear, but protect it with boundaries of love. I will walk with open hands, open eyes, and an open heart, knowing that even if I am wounded again, I will not be undone. For healing is not the end of my story, it is the beginning of a new one, written in grace, held in your hands, and lived in the fullness of a heart made whole. Father, as the healing of my heart unfolds, I begin to taste a deeper stillness, a peace that does not depend on circumstance, a calm that does not vanish when the world trembles. This peace feels different from rest. It feels like knowing, like standing in the center of a storm, yet feeling untouched by its rage. It does not ask for control or understanding. It simply is. I used to think peace was something I had to chase, but now I see it has been here all along, waiting for me to stop running. Peace is not found in escape, it is found in surrender. Lord, your peace is unlike anything the world can offer. It is not the fragile calm that comes when everything is easy. It is the steady assurance that remains when everything is uncertain. It settles deep into the soul, quiet but unshakable. It does not remove the noise outside. It transforms how I hear it. When I rest in this peace, even chaos sounds different. It becomes rhythm, not disruption. You remind me that peace is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of you. Wherever you dwell, peace follows. God, I have spent so much of my life trying to earn tranquility. I thought if I fixed everything, I would finally feel whole. But peace is not something I build. It is something I allow. It enters when I stop forcing, when I release the urge to control outcomes, when I trust that what is unfolding is already known by you. This peace does not come from understanding the plan. It comes from trusting the planner. I no longer need to predict what tomorrow holds. I only need to hold on to you. Father, I see now that peace is both gift and practice. It is something you give freely and something I must nurture daily. The world will always try to steal it with fear, with noise, with endless demands. But when I pause to breathe, to center my thoughts in your presence, peace returns like a faithful friend. It is the quiet voice that whispers above my anxiety, reminding me that I am safe, that I am seen, that I am held. Peace is not loud, but it is powerful. It does not demand attention. It simply transforms everything it touches. Lord, sometimes the greatest act of faith is choosing peace when fear feels justified. It is resisting the pull of panic, refusing to let worry dictate the rhythm of my day. Peace does not mean indifference. It means perspective. It means remembering that even when the sea rises high, you are still in the boat. Peace is knowing that no wave is stronger than the one who commands the wind. When I trust this truth, I can face uncertainty not with dread, but with quiet strength. God, this peace changes how I move through the world. It slows my steps, softens my tone, and opens my heart. It makes space for compassion where judgment used to live. It allows me to listen without defending, to love without expecting, to live without fearing. Peace turns my reactions into responses and my worries into prayers. It teaches me that serenity is not found by avoiding the world, but by meeting it with grace. Father, the more I rest in your peace, the more I realize how easily I lose it when I step back into striving. The moment I begin to grasp again, to compare, to chase approval, peace slips away not because you leave me, but because I leave stillness. Yet every time I return, you welcome me without rebuke. You remind me that peace is not a reward for perfection. It is a promise for presence. It is always available, always waiting, like sunlight behind clouds unchanged, even when unseen. Lord, teach me to be a carrier of peace. Let it flow through my words, through my presence, through the way I move in this world. Let others feel lighter, calmer, more grounded after meeting me, not because of who I am, but because of who lives in me. When I walk into chaos, let peace walk in too. When I face conflict, let peace become the language I speak. When I see division, let me become a bridge, not by force but by quiet example. True peace never imposes. It invites. God, I have learned that peace requires honesty. I cannot pretend to be calm when I am breaking inside. True peace does not come from pretending the pain is gone. It comes from trusting that it has a purpose. When I allow myself to feel without fear, to grieve without despair, to question without losing faith, peace begins to rise naturally like the tide returning after the storm. You never asked me to silence my emotions. You asked me to anchor them in you. That is where peace begins, in the meeting place between vulnerability and faith. Father, I now understand that peace is not something that happens to me. It is something that happens through me. It grows as I align my heart with yours, as I release resentment, as I choose forgiveness, as I let go of battles that were never mine to fight. Every time I choose love over bitterness, silence over reaction, prayer over panic, I am building peace within. And from that inner stillness, the world around me begins to reflect harmony I could never force through effort alone. Lord, the peace you give is not fleeting, it is eternal. It does not end when the day ends or fade when trouble comes. It lives in the spaces between moments, in the breath between words, in the pause before decisions. It is always available to those who seek not answers, but alignment. The world rushes, but peace waits. The world shouts, but peace whispers. The world divides, but peace unites. And within this gentle, powerful calm, I am reminded of who I truly am, not defined by fear, but anchored in love, God. When I wake each morning, let peace be my first thought, before the tasks, before the noise, before the rush of the day. Let me sit in the stillness where you speak without sound. Let peace guide my choices, soften my edges, and shape my words. Let it remain not as a fleeting feeling, but as a foundation that holds even when everything else shifts. The world outside may not always change, but the world within me already has. Father, as I step into this day, I will carry this peace not as a fragile treasure to protect, but as a living force to share. It will go where I go, speak through my silence, and flow through my actions. It will guard my heart and guide my steps. It will remind me that storms pass, but your peace remains. And as long as that peace lives in me, no darkness can dwell too long. No chaos can claim dominion. No fear can steal what you have already secured. For peace, your peace is not a moment. It is a miracle that stays. Father, from the still waters of peace, a new melody begins to rise within me, the quiet joy of surrender. It is not the joy of victory or achievement, but the deeper joy that comes from finally releasing the need to control, to understand, to hold everything together. I have spent so much of life striving to be enough, doing more, proving my worth, and grasping at outcomes that were never mine to command. But as I let go, I find something far greater than what I tried to keep. I find freedom. I find rest. I find you. Lord, surrender once felt like loss. It felt like giving up, like admitting defeat. But now I see that surrender is not the end of strength, it is the beginning of it. It is not resignation but revelation. When I open my hands and let go of my need to steer every storm, you take hold of what I could never manage on my own. And suddenly, everything that once felt heavy becomes light again. The weight of fear lifts, the noise of doubt fades, and in its place comes the unmistakable clarity of your will unfolding in ways I could not have imagined. God, surrender is not the absence of effort. It is the presence of trust. It does not mean I stop moving, it means I stop resisting. It means walking forward with faith instead of forcing outcomes through fear. It is breathing through the unknown with the assurance that you already stand beyond it. Surrender is not passive. It is profoundly active. It is choosing your way over mine, even when my heart does not fully understand. It is whispering yes in the dark before I see the dawn. Father, I used to equate surrender with weakness, but it takes courage to lay down my plans and say, your will, not mine. It takes humility to stop grasping for control when everything feels uncertain. True surrender is not an act of desperation, it is an act of devotion. It is trusting that what you ask me to release is not meant to harm me, but to heal me. It is believing that what you withhold is not punishment, but protection. You see what I cannot, and you prepare what I would never think to ask for. Lord, surrender is not one great moment. It is 1,000 small ones. It happens in every choice to forgive instead of resent, to stay soft instead of bitter, to be patient instead of anxious. Every act of release is a thread of surrender, weaving my will into yours. And slowly, as I practice letting go, I begin to see the beauty of divine partnership. Life stops being a struggle and becomes a dance one, where I do not need to lead. When I follow your rhythm, even missteps turn into grace. God, surrender also teaches me to let go of timing. How many times have I demanded immediate answers, forgetting that delay is often your way of deepening trust? My impatience has whispered that you are distant, but surrender reminds me that you are deliberate. You do not rush because you are never late. Every season serves a purpose. Every silence carries a message. When I surrender the need for speed, I find joy in simply walking with you, knowing that where I am is exactly where I am meant to be. Father, there is a strange, sacred joy that comes with letting go the kind that does not depend on what happens next, but on who holds what happens next. It is the joy of release, of breathing deeply without fear of the future, of waking each day knowing I do not have to control everything to live fully. Surrender transforms anxiety into anticipation. It changes what if into even if. It whispers that even if everything shifts, I will still be standing, because I am standing in you. Lord, surrender also changes how I love. When I stop trying to possess, I can finally appreciate. When I stop demanding certainty, I can finally experience intimacy. Surrender teaches me that love is not control, it is trust. It is letting people grow, letting them go, and letting your purpose work in them, just as it works in me. The hands that surrender are the same hands that bless. I no longer cling in fear. I hold in faith, knowing that everything given to love is never lost. God, in surrender I find peace with the past, I stop replaying what I cannot rewrite. I stop wishing for a version of life that never was. Instead, I find gratitude for the lessons hidden inside the pain. I no longer need to fix every wrong. I need only to release it into your mercy. Surrender frees me from carrying the weight of what if, and allows me to live in the freedom what is. Every time I let go of regret, I make space for grace. Father, surrender is also the gateway to joy because it restores wonder. When I am no longer obsessed with outcomes, I begin to notice the beauty of process. The sunrise feels more miraculous, the laughter more sacred, the ordinary moments more holy. I see blessings not as rewards, but as reminders, signs of your presence woven quietly into my day. When I surrender, I start to notice you everywhere, in the calm breeze, in the kindness of a stranger, in the unexpected peace that finds me when I least deserve it. Lord, surrender even touches my prayers. They become less about asking and more about aligning, less about changing your will and more about conforming mine. I find myself saying, I trust you, more than I need this. And in that shift, I discover freedom. The burden of making life make sense disappears. I stop treating you as a rescuer who must respond on command, and I begin to know you as a father who has already provided. Surrender is no longer giving up. It is giving in to love, to peace, to purpose. God, this surrender brings joy not because it guarantees easy days, but because it anchors me through hard ones. It gives me the courage to rest even when I cannot see the results, to worship even when the way feels unclear, to smile even when the answer is still unseen. Joy does not depend on clarity. It depends on closeness. When I stay close to you, joy flows without condition. Father, as the morning stretches forward, I feel lighter, like the burdens I once held so tightly are quietly dissolving into the wind. I do not need to force what is already ordained. I do not need to fear what is yet to come. Surrender has become not a moment of loss, but a daily renewal of trust. And as I walk into this day, I will walk freely, not weighed by what I must achieve, but lifted by what I have already received. I surrender not out of weakness, but out of wonder, because I have finally learned that letting go of everything does not leave me empty. It leaves me full of joy, full of peace, full of you. Father, after learning to surrender, I begin to see how gratitude naturally rises from the soil of a trusting heart. It is no longer something I practice only when things go right, but something that grows from the very act of breathing, from knowing that every breath itself is grace. Gratitude is not a list of blessings I count when life feels good. It is a posture, a way of seeing, a rhythm of recognizing your presence even when circumstances do not look like favor. It turns my eyes from what is missing to what is here, from what was lost to what remains. Lord, I realize that gratitude is a form of strength, not sentiment. It does not deny pain. It stands beside it and still chooses to whisper, "Thank you." Gratitude transforms wounds into wisdom, scarcity into sufficiency, and waiting into worship. It shifts my focus from control to connection. Even when I cannot change what happened, I can change how I see it. Gratitude opens the window for light to enter places that once felt dark. It reminds me that even in seasons of loss, Something beautiful is still being formed. God. When I choose gratitude, I stop measuring my life by what I gain and begin to value it by what I give. Gratitude softens my edges and teaches my heart to bend instead of break. It rewrites my language. I have to becomes I get to. And why me becomes thank you for trusting me with this. Gratitude lifts me from the weight of comparison and plants me in the soil of contentment. It is the quiet power that keeps my heart steady while the world spins restlessly around me. Father, sometimes gratitude begins as discipline before it becomes delight. There are mornings when my spirit feels heavy and thankfulness does not come easily. Yet even then, I find that when I start naming what is good, your patience, your presence, your unchanging love, something begins to shift inside. Gratitude does not erase sorrow, but it gives it shape. It allows me to carry my pain without letting it carry me. The moment I say thank you, fear loses its grip, and my heart begins to remember that joy is still possible. Lord, you have shown me that gratitude is the language of faith. It speaks before evidence appears, praising not because of what I see, but because of who you are. Gratitude trusts that every closed door carries redirection, that every delay hides protection, and that every unanswered prayer holds a deeper wisdom. It looks beyond the surface of disappointment and finds purpose shimmering beneath it. When I choose gratitude, I stop waiting for a perfect day to feel blessed. I begin to see that every day, even the hard ones, already is God. Gratitude also changes the way I see others. It makes me less demanding and more understanding when I am thankful for people rather than frustrated by them. I begin to notice their goodness before their flaws. Gratitude turns relationships from transactions into treasures. It reminds me that every person who crosses my path is part of your design. A teacher, a mirror, or a blessing in disguise. Even the ones who test my patience reveal opportunities for grace. Gratitude turns resentment into compassion and pride into humility. Father, I often forget how powerful simple thankfulness can be. A thankful heart does not just change my attitude, it changes my atmosphere. It affects how I speak, how I listen, how I respond. When gratitude fills my spirit, frustration loses its fuel. I stop rushing through moments and start receiving them. Gratitude slows me down enough to notice the texture of life, the warmth of sunlight on my face, the sound of laughter, the way small kindnesses ripple farther than I realize. Gratitude opens my eyes to everyday miracles hiding in plain sight. Lord, I have learned that gratitude does not depend on abundance, it creates it. The more thankful I am, the more I see reasons to be thankful. It is not magic, it is awareness. Gratitude multiplies joy because it shifts my heart from scarcity to sufficiency. I do not wait for something big to happen to feel blessed. I look at what is already here and realize how much I once overlooked. The ability to feel the wind, to hear a familiar voice, to have another chance to love, these are the quiet miracles that gratitude unveils. God, in moments of uncertainty, gratitude becomes my anchor. When I do not know what comes next, I can still thank you for what is now. Gratitude grounds me in the present. It keeps me from drifting to regret or anxiety. It reminds me that even though the future is unknown, the present is still holy. And when I give thanks here, in this very moment, I discover that peace and purpose are already within reach. Gratitude is not about what happens. It is about awareness of who walks with me through it all. Father, I see now that gratitude and grace are two sides of the same coin. Grace gives freely. Gratitude receives fully. One flows from you. The other flows back. When I receive without gratitude, grace feels wasted. But when I respond with a thankful heart, your grace becomes a song that fills every space of my soul. Gratitude does not need grand gestures. It thrives in whispers, in quiet reflection, in the small thank you breathed in the middle of a busy day. Lord, let gratitude become my first instinct instead of my last resort. Let it greet the morning before worry arrives. Let it be the rhythm that carries me through the day, the soft refrain behind every task. Every conversation, every breath. Teach me to find beauty in the ordinary, to celebrate the simple, to thank you not only for what I receive, but also for what I release. Gratitude is the bridge between what is and what will be. It turns waiting into worship and endings into beginnings. God, as I move through this life, I want to live as if everything is a gift, because it is. The sunlight, the storms, the laughter, the lessons, all of it leads me closer to you. Gratitude turns my days from routine into revelation. It opens my eyes wider to your fingerprints on everything around me. When I choose gratitude, I am never empty, for even in loss, I find evidence of your love. Father, as I step into this new day, gratitude be the song I hum under my breath, the warmth that rises in my chest, the strength that steadies my steps. Let me give thanks not only in comfort, but in challenge, not only in abundance, but in uncertainty. Gratitude makes my heart resilient. It keeps me rooted in joy when the world sways. I do not need everything to be perfect to be thankful. I only need to remember that you are here, and that alone is reason enough to live this day fully, with open hands, a quiet smile, and a heart overflowing with gratitude. Father, as this long journey of prayer unfolds to its quiet close, I feel a stillness that words can hardly hold. It is not the end, it is a continuation, a soft turning of the page where faith becomes breath and gratitude becomes heartbeat. You have walked with me through every whisper and every silence, through longing and learning, through surrender and peace. And now, standing at the edge of this reflection, I sense not an ending, but a beginning, a gentle dawning of something eternal within me. Lord, you have taken me from fear to faith, from striving to surrender, from emptiness to abundance. Each morning spent with you has shaped a deeper truth in me, that life, in all its fragile beauty, is not about control but communion. You have shown me that I was never walking toward you. I was always walking with you. Even in the days I felt alone, you were the quiet pulse behind my perseverance, the unseen strength beneath my steps. God, it humbles me to realize how many times you met me in small, unnoticed ways, in the way sunlight filtered through leaves after a long night, in the way forgiveness felt lighter than anger, in the way peace arrived not as a shout but a whisper. You have taught me that hollowness hides in ordinary moments, that miracles are not rare, they are recognized. Every sunrise, every breath, every heartbeat has become a reminder that you are near. Father, I once believed faith was a climb, a summit to conquer through discipline and devotion. But now I see it more as a current, a flow that carries me when I stop resisting. The more I let go, the more I am held, the more I trust, the more I see. And in that flow, joy no longer depends on outcome, love no longer depends on approval, and peace no longer depends on control. Faith, I have learned, is not certainty, it is confidence in the unseen goodness that guides me forward. Even when I do not understand, Lord, I have discovered that healing does not always mean removing pain, transforming it. You have not erased my wounds. You have made them windows through which light enters. What once broke me now humbles me. What once scared me now strengthens me. And what once seemed lost has quietly found its way back in new form. I no longer pray for an easier path. I pray for eyes to see the purpose within it. For every tear has watered something sacred, and every waiting has grown a deeper trust. God, this journey has taught me to live slower, to listen deeper, to speak kinder. It has taught me that prayer is not only words, it is awareness. It is the sacred conversation that continues in my thoughts, my actions, my stillness. It is how I breathe when I forget to speak. It is how I find you in the laughter of a child, in the patience of an elder, in the forgiveness that mends broken things. Prayer has become less of asking and more of being present, being grateful, being yours. Father, as I look back over these mornings of reflection, I see how far you have brought me. Each day, you peeled away a layer of fear and replaced it with faith. Each chapter was a piece of my becoming. And though I have spoken many words, I now find peace in silence, the silence that listens instead of asks, that trusts instead of questions, that rests instead of resists. I do not need to know what comes next. I only need to know that you will be there when it arrives. Lord, I want to live the rest of my days as an extension of this prayer, to wake with gratitude instead of worry, to speak with compassion instead of haste, to walk with purpose instead of pride. Let every act of kindness be a continuation of these words. Let every choice echo this devotion. Let every breath remind me that I am never separate from your love. This is the life I choose, not one free of storms, but one rooted in peace. God, I thank you for every listener who has joined me on this journey of prayer, for every heart that paused to breathe, to reflect, to feel seen in the midst of struggle. You have brought us together not by accident, but by divine design. In each story shared, each tear released, each hope renewed, your presence has moved quietly between us. I pray that these words become not an ending, but a beginning for every soul that hears them, that they may carry forward a spark of light into their own days. Father, to the one listening now, thank you for walking this path with me. Thank you for letting your heart open to these moments of honesty, surrender, and renewal. You have not come this far by chance. There is something sacred about your presence here, something that connects our spirits through this shared faith. May you continue to wake each morning knowing that you are guided, loved, and seen. When life feels heavy, return to stillness. When doubt whispers, return to trust. When darkness lingers, remember that dawn is always closer than it seems. Lord, I ask that this journey of prayer does not end here, but expands into the life ahead. Let every sunrise remind us that beginnings never stop coming. Let every act of kindness be an echo of divine love. Let every hardship remind us of our strength. And let every quiet moment remind us that you are never far away. The soul that listens will always hear you in the wind, in the laughter, in the calm rhythm of the day unfolding. God, as this reflection draws to a close, I do not feel goodbye, I feel becoming. I feel the gentle unfolding of something eternal, a light that does not fade with the night, but continues glowing softly within. It is the light of faith, the warmth of gratitude, the peace that lingers beyond words. And as I step into this new morning, I carry that light not as something I must protect, but as something meant to be shared. To everyone who has stayed until this moment, thank you. Your presence is a prayer in itself. May these words continue to breathe life into your days. I invite you to share your thoughts, your prayers, your reflections below, because faith grows stronger when it is spoken, when it is shared, when it connects hearts across distance and difference. If this journey has touched you, please subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who might need its warmth, and return often to these quiet spaces where spirit meets stillness. Together, let us continue walking in light, nurturing faith, and finding beauty in the gentle rhythm of every new morning. And as the sun rises once more, spreading gold across the horizon, may we feel that same light awakening within us, soft, steady, and eternal like the dawn that never truly ends.